Every single candidate on the ballot has a right to that process, and I intend to uphold that process.
To Mr. Moore, now you have stated that you will honor the results of the election. Given the statements and actions of your opponent, it's possible that a meaningful number of Marylanders will not believe the results of the election. What more do you believe could be done to ensure election integrity and faith in the results of the election?
I want to read something. I am co-hosting 2 buses to the Million MAGA March/rally with the Frederick County Conservative Club in support of @RealDonaldTrump on January 6th, 2021 to #StopTheSteal. Demand no #China Biden. Those are the words of my opponent.
All right, let me get ready. So watch this. I say this. Let me make sure this.
We have free, fair, and transparent elections in our state. Never has a question of election integrity come up in the state of Maryland, and they will not come up in 2022. We are proud of the election process that we have here in the state of Maryland, and I will honor the results of the election, and I'm hoping that my opponent would do the same.
Thank you, but to my question, what more could be done to ensure public trust in the election results? Do you have any proposals?
Well, I think public trust in the election system is there. You know, we have an election system where we offer mail-in ballots. We have an election system where we offer early voting. We have an election system where we offer day of. And we have a court system that reinforces.
I wasn't sure if you were coming or not.
I'm sorry.
Remarkably transparent election.
It's okay. It's actually on. I'm getting ready to climb into my bed. I ordered some pizza.
Mike is ordering food for us now. We got in late from dialysis.
So we are live.
Ooh. I'm sitting here fixing my
Such as my opponent,
yes.
wishes to centralize authority
I think
and
that
completely ignore the Constitution and the state law. That is what I have been seeking to do, is uphold the state law for everyone, and that's exemplified even in my own county, where a Democrat candidate won election by 1 vote, and then the certification process was then denied just this last month. In July, excuse me, and because of the fact that there was a question as to the counting. That's the right of every single candidate on the ballot. That's the statute, that's the law, and I've worked across the aisle to ensure that all of our elections have integrity. I've stood with ACLU attorneys to make sure 1 person, 1 vote, and I intend to uphold the law as we go forward.
If I could just say something. I'm going to keep moving. I'll give you plenty of time towards the end, sir. I'm sorry. Tracy, go ahead.
So, Mr. Moore, this question is for you. I want to discuss why you've only agreed to 1 in-person debate. Dan Cox,
good question.
University's forum that you
good question.
The paper from Oregon State said it's unfortunate that Westmore did not accept our numerous invitations to the forum. Dan Cox has accused you of running from him. Cox handily won his party's nomination. How do you respond to Marylanders who feel that you are snubbing their nominee?
I respond by saying that I'm excited to be here right now, today, debating Dan Cox.
Okay.
I respond by saying that we have spent time going all over the state of Maryland, going to all 24 jurisdictions.
I haven't seen him, but he said he spent time moving around the state of Maryland.
We'll spend time on all 4 HBCUs in the state of Maryland because.
So, couple things. My curls was all over my head. I'm a little disappointed with jumping in on Dan right off. I'm a little disappointed, not because I'm a Republican and Dan's a Republican. I'm a little disappointed at the way, the tone they chose to set by jumping in on Dan on January 6th, yet not questioning Wes Moore about who he actually even is.
Hopefully they're going to get to it.
So if we're going to call folk out, then we need to call folk out.
I'm just here for the pizza. Because I already know it's going to be a bunch of crap.
Begin by saying that the fact that I have stood with Governor Hogan indicates that I am the only individual running for governor with experience, with the opportunity, who has served in government, and who has stood with Governor Hogan's policies to lower taxes, lower crime, while my opponent instead has thought.
Dan looks like he's feeling better.
I said he'd be fine.
Difference between us, a stark difference. And when you look at the reason he won't debate, it's because he's a phony. There are so many things in this book that are completely false. You look at the book, he claims he was raised in Baltimore City, but sir, you weren't there until you were 34.
Oh. Okay, Dan.
We're watching a perfect indication as to why Governor Hogan called you unfit to lead. We're watching a perfect indication as to why Governor Hogan has said, not only will I not support Delegate Cox, I won't even give him a tour of the governor's office.
But what does that have to do with where you live at Westmore?
With an extremist election
What does that have to do with it?
whose rhetoric and whose policies are not just dangerous and divisive, but will take our state backwards. And the intention that I have in this campaign is I have an intention that we're going to talk about the issues that Marylanders care about, like ensuring we have a 21st century education system for all of our children.
So, are we live right now? I need to ask. Okay. This time, fragging like a bull. And I want everybody, when they go back and watch this, to hear I said it. I meant it.
Monstrous. I need to respond.
So, Westmore, as we know from not knowing exactly who he is, where he was born, where he was raised, is a spin master. And I get that. Because when asked about,
So I'm not sure,
why he was only willing to debate once, because he was running, because he's not real, as Dan said, as Delegate Cox said, instead of answering the question or addressing that question, which has been raised by numerous groups, numerous people, numerous outlets, he wants to switch and pivot and say, this is why Governor Hogan says Delegate Cox is this, this, and this, instead of actually addressing the people. When somebody wants your vote, and they want to make sure that you are who you say you are, and you go in and vote, and there's election integrity and all that thing, you better make sure when you pull that lever that you're pulling it for a candidate you believe has candidate integrity. Not somebody that's even going to lie about who they are, where they from. Not somebody that's going to pivot and switch, but somebody that's going to take on the hard questions and give you the straightforward answers. I don't have to like where they stand on things, but I have to believe when it comes out their mouth that they mean it. And with Mr. Moore, I sure can't believe that right about now.
Close the racial wealth gap.
Like I
now,
said,
just talk about it.
I'm here for the pizza, and it's good.
This and do play a part in your plan at all? I want to know.
And why didn't they do a follow-up question to say you really didn't answer the question?
Exactly.
Sure that the people who were robbed of their business and their wealth in the last 2 years with an authority that my opponent supports, and that is a lockdown authority. We need to make sure that we're back in the position to prosper once again. That's my platform and plan. When you look at my opponent, he's talking about transferring wealth away from people because of their skin color. That is racist. It's wrong. I will stand against that and say, I'm a civil rights attorney. I'm about equal justice for all of Maryland, making opportunities, bridge loans, opportunity zones. We need to make sure that all of our citizens in Maryland have what they need to have an education. I mean, it's preposterous when you go to Baltimore City, and I've been there playing ball, and I've been to Morgan State when Mr. Moore refused to attend. And the cry of everyone's heart is, we've got to get our city and our state back on track, both economically and safe. Mm-hmm. That's my platform. Mr. Moore wants to undermine that.
The impacts of racial disparities did not start 2 years ago, Delegate Cox. We are watching something that has been a long-term challenge that our state has got to wrestle with and address. The fact
so why didn't he show up?
To one racial wealth gap in our state is real. It's not pretend. And not because one group is working 8
And so when I seem to be looking away from the camera, I am, because folks, pen and paper, I'm taking notes.
A recent report showed that the racial
wealth
gap has cost this country $16 trillion.
Is some stuff.
But we've got to focus on creating pathways for work, wages, and wealth. Having an education system that's teaching our young people how not just employees, but employers. Making sure that we are increasing wages for Maryland families and getting to a $15 minimum wage and peg it to inflation. Making sure that we're creating pathways for wealth. And that means addressing things like unaffordable homes. That means addressing things like
I wonder if they got the questions up front, because I know when I called to interview him, he was asking for all of the questions up front.
Any good outlet won't give him that.
that number. We've got to take this, we've got to move into a direction where we're taking meaningful action and reparative action to be able to address the economic gaps that we continue to see in our society.
So thank you, Mr. Jessalkin. Now,
I'm sorry, if I need to respond real
we're
briefly.
going to keep moving this time. We'll come back to another one.
This is a question for both of you. It goes first to Mr. Moore. Student test scores nationally and in Maryland are down. Are we doing the right things to help
Hey,
students
John,
catch
how
up
are
after
you?
the pandemic?
Thank you. And the answer is we need to do more. You know, when I've been going all around the state and talking to parents and hearing the frustration. And frankly, it's not just frustration talking to parents. I have an 11-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son myself. And we have a unique opportunity to get this right, where we have resources that are coming from the federal side, upwards of $1.9 billion that's earmarked towards educational supports. And we've got to ensure that that capital is going towards things like after-school supports, summer supports, advanced tutoring. That we have to make sure that we are properly implementing the blueprint for Maryland's future, which I was very proud to work on. Our administration will fully fund, and in partnership, we will properly implement. And I'm thankful for the support of Maryland's teachers who have backed my campaign. That we are going to move holistically to be able to ensure that our children are getting a world-class education, an education that they deserve, and an education that our communities need them to get.
Scott. So I want to begin by mentioning the clarity of what we just heard a minute ago. My opponent stated on record that he is for reparations. This is an extreme and inappropriate, divisive approach to healing the divides that we all know and love to see healed. That's what made Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman great. They sought to use our Constitution, like I have had the privilege of doing with civil rights laws, to advance freedom for everyone, not to create this division that my opponent is now on record saying that he's going to enforce with this redistribution of wealth through reparations. That's appalling, and it actually reflects the education question that you just asked, because that's part of his education program. That's not going to give us a world-class education. We need to get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. We need to make sure that STEM technologies are what our kids have access to. We need to make sure that we have school choice. That's part of my platform. I pledge to make sure that our schools actually turn on the HVAC and it works. We are going to restore world-class education in Maryland, and I'm proud to be part of that plan.
Good segue to where we're going to jump.
I'm sorry. Can I just make a quick note?
10 seconds, we got to go.
Thank you. That my opponent, when asked a question about education, used it to say something that I did not say. I mean, this is part of this dangerous rhetoric and this divisive rhetoric that will frankly move our state backwards. And I honor what Governor Hogan said, because what Governor Hogan said about you being unfit to be in this office, you are putting on full display right now.
Mr. Moore, instead of the back and forth, let's listen to some college students.
He said instead of the back and forth.
Salisbury and Morgan State.
Thank you, sir.
I want to know from the next governor.
Because I was wondering when somebody was going to speak up.
This is from Salisbury University.
Hi, I'm Bees Beasley, the editor-in-chief of Salisbury University's student newspaper, The Flyer. My question for the candidates is, how will gun control and crime prevention intersect under your administration?
Mr. Cox, you go first on that.
So it's important that we get the guns off the streets that are there illegally and being used illegally for crimes. This is why I was on the governor's crime task force in my judiciary committee fighting with my fellow
See, you sitting there snacking. Now I feel like I need to step off camera for a minute to go get something. That ain't right. Look at you. Look at you.
Decriminalizing much of this and
It's good.
the approach
It's
is,
from Papa John's.
their
It's good.
approach was to refuse the felony approach that if you've used a gun in crime, that you should go to jail. Instead, they want them to run the streets. That's why we have 60% of the murders in Baltimore City right now being unsolved and unprosecuted. That's going to change on my watch. We're going to bring back law and order. We're going to bring back the safety on our streets that everyone is crying out for.
That crunching you hear in the plastic in the background is my husband misbehaving and pulling out snacks in front of you.
Oh, okay.
And public safety.
See, I know him. He's a sweetheart. So he's probably going to offer me something.
And in their own skin.
I can't exactly come get it.
When it said, I said,
Thank you. I got my own crunching.
how my opponent likes to say that he backs the blue. The blue doesn't back you. Because the blue.
Why is he not answering the question?
And so the thing we do in partnership in our communities is ensuring that we can get and keep these illegal guns off of our streets and get and keep these violent offenders off of our streets. And there's an important role that the state plays. There's also an important role that the state plays in making sure that we have a strong parole and probation system, where you consider a third of all violent offenders are in violation of parole and probation. That is a state function, and right now it is understaffed and undermanned. We have to fix that. That we can actually put state resources to be able to make sure we're providing supports for violence intervention programs and violence interruption programs, which are continuing to show impacts because the people who are closest to the challenge are oftentimes the ones closest to the solutions. So we have to make sure that we have a state that's working in partnership with our local jurisdictions and also working in partnership with our federal counterparts to ensure we are getting and keeping guns out of our streets and keeping violent offenders out of our neighborhoods.
Mr. Costa, give you a chance to respond. If you like.
Thank you very much. So,
Seconds, please.
Mr. Moore has long worked with Open Society, and they came into my committee, and I have a record of serving, protecting the blue, and serving in my committee to defend them, because Mr. Moore and his team came in and sought to defund the police in my committee. That was with the Open Society people. That was with the nonprofits that wanted to change and reimagine policing against the police and against you and I as citizens. I fought that. We stopped it. Instead, I'm going to fund the police. That's why sheriffs and officers on duty support me, not just unions, although I support them too. But we are going to make sure from day one that our streets are safe again. We will never say, like Mr. Moore said in Salon.com, you can Google it and look it up, that he wants to defund the police, and not just that, he wants to indict the system. Now, that's not talk and rhetoric that's safe for any one of us.
This is where we keep moving.
Sorry, once again, that's not true.
So we're going to go to Morgan State University. One moment.
Hi, my name is Jamie Mosley Lawson, a student political reporter here at Morgan State University. And my question is, now that the state of Maryland and HBCUs have made a settlement, what are some further steps that you think the state should take in order to further assist the HBCUs in the area?
Mr. Moore.
Great. Thank you so much for that question. And our state is so blessed that we have 4 of the top HBCUs in America here in the
that he didn't show up at.
And now we have reached with the HBCUs that was needed and long overdue. But there's a few different things that we've got to do. One is we need to make sure that the grounds why the settlement was reached in the first place are actually being honored, because this was about duplication of coursework. This was about giving an unfair advantage to institutions who are not our HBCUs. The challenge is, despite the settlement being done, that practice is still happening. So we have to make sure that the grounds for the settlements are actually being honored. We also have to make sure that this is not.
I wonder if they're going to ask him about that $21,000 water bill.
That helps to address so many other challenges that we are seeing about how are we creating pipelines in our nursing industry? How are we creating pipelines in our education system? How are we creating pipelines of entrepreneurial growth and being able to focus on new industries, solar and wind technology, cyber, biotech technologies? We should be leveraging the genius of our HBCU students and making them a core part of Maryland's growth story. Scott?
Well, like my opponent, I actually went to the HBCU debate.
But if you really felt that, why didn't you show up to Morgan?
I was honored and privileged to be part of it. And one of the things that I said there, and I believe firmly, this is why I voted for the settlement. This is why I voted for our HBCUs to receive.
Can somebody ask him why he didn't go?
To expand programs, to have things like tech opportunities, to have opportunities to get certifications in their degrees. But most importantly, I actually went through college myself on a Pell Grant. I know exactly how hard it is to make up the gap in your tuition.
Yeah.
And yet, many times HBCUs have the funding levels differentiated, thinking that they're somehow receiving more funds than other universities in the state and the University of Maryland system. But that's just not the case. So we need to make sure we equalize not only the funding to the university, but to make sure that money gets to the student so that they don't have to drop out, like, unfortunately, so many students in HBCUs end up doing.
Back to you.
Thank you. Turning to healthcare. As you both know,
nobody
access to
asked him why he
abortion
didn't
care
show up.
is,
I guess that
by
wasn't
Maryland's
important.
law, but not by national law. Depending
That's
on
why I'm
the
enjoying my
outcome of
pizza.
the election and the makeup of Congress, there could either be a proposal
And I'm enjoying some fresh pork rinds.
Oh,
for
goodness.
abortion. As governor, what would be your position on national abortion legislation? And would you get involved in that national debate on behalf of Marylanders? Delegate Cox, you go first.
No, I'm focused on being the governor of Maryland, and I would make sure that everything that is worked on in Maryland reflects the interests and values of the people. I am pro-life. I am very honored and privileged with my wife to have a special needs son. That's why I fought on the House floor for the Down Syndrome Protection Act. But one of the things that is very dear to my heart is to ensure that everyone is safe, that women and children and the unborn all have equal protection and are supported by our laws. And so when you look at the national debate, turn back to the states, we have one of the most liberal abortion laws in the country. And I think that, as governor, there's very little that I can do to override that or change it. So, the idea that's come from my opponent that I'm somehow dangerous to women's health care is preponderous. It's false. It's absolutely not true.
Mr. Moore, your position on national abortion legislation?
Thank you. I believe abortion is health care, and I fully trust women to make this decision with their doctors. Maryland to be a safe haven for abortion rights, and I backed that last fall for a constitutional amendment. And if I become the governor, I will make sure that I will back it again. This is something that is not just a national issue. This is an issue for Maryland's women who want their health care to be protected. And when the Supreme Court made the decision to rob millions of women of health care, my opponent then the same day praised the Supreme Court and praised Donald Trump. So my opponent is very clear about where he stands on health care. He's very clear on the fact that he would criminalize abortion even in the case of incest and rape. He's very clear where he is on abortion care. That he says that even in the case where the mother's life is in risk, that he would either force the mother to have the child or arrest her. And we have abortion is health care.
Yes, thank you. That is absolutely false. In fact, if you look at the abortion legislation, the pro-life bills I put in the legislature, where I've actually had to work on this across the aisle with my colleagues, I have had the 3 exceptions in the law. I believe that is a legal process that should be followed. And this whole, stating of criminalization, absolutely false. That's a preposterous situation, preposterous accusation. It's demeaning, wrong. It's demeaning to women. It's demeaning to the 5 women in my household. And I tell you, this just demonstrates that you cannot trust what comes out of my opponent's mouth. I will say this: I unborn life, but not take into. This is why I'm running for governor. Not take into my power something that is not constitutional. When you hear my opponent saying that he's going to force into the Constitution a protection all the way through not only the 3rd trimester, but the 3rd, transaction, all the way through the 3rd trimester. It's wrong. It's absolutely disgusting to think that that's the position of my opponent. It's extreme, and I will instead
respond if you'd like, and we can move on.
Thank you. No, the state of Maryland should never stand between the difficult decision that a woman has to make with her doctor about this issue. That when we're talking about abortion being healthcare, I trust women to make this decision with their doctors, not politicians and judges. This is a deeply personal and important thing for Maryland women, and frankly, all Marylanders should be able to embrace. And once again, while I think my opponent, both his actions and deeds, both historic and present, they speak for themselves. I want to be very, very clear. In a Moore-Miller administration, we will protect reproductive rights. In a Moore-Miller administration, we will make sure that Maryland is a safe haven for abortion care.
Gentlemen,
I need to respond.
We're going to keep moving, sir. We're going to keep moving. We'll get to this next question.
So sticking with the topic of health care and women's reproductive rights, I'd like to start with Mr. Cox, you were opposed to government vaccines against COVID, a potentially deadly virus. You cite that as why you ran for delegate, but you support the government telling women when they can and cannot practice the right to have an abortion. You have supported 14 bills restricting or rolling back abortion access as a delegate. Why do women's bodies deserve government oversight when you don't want oversight for your own body?
Just a very loaded question that's certainly demonstrating bias, because that's not my position at all. I think it's really obnoxious that the government wish to take possession of our bodies against the law. The healthcare system allows for the decisions to be made between her doctor or his doctor, and that was what was trampled on the last 2 years. And so I stood firmly in saying I'm for vaccines, personal choices for that, but I'm opposed to vaccine passports, and that's what phrases. You couldn't even go to some of his events without demonstrating that you had an experimental vaccine. That's not the kind of direction of our state. It's not America. People should have their choices in these decisions. And as to the bills, like I said, the bills that I have supported have had exceptions. They have always focused on things like making sure women are safe with the distribution of medication, making sure women are safe in their procedures and in their ambulatory clinics, making sure that little children like Down syndrome are not targeted just because of them being disabled. That's the future of abortion. My opponent is extreme on this issue. He, right now, will support and sign a constitutional amendment. And I believe, sir, that you would sign the bill that would also deny care after birth to someone who survived an abortion. That's extreme. My approach is more mainstream.
Well, Mr. Potts, just please answer the question about government oversight when it comes to one's body, and why, when it comes to that, but for access to health care, there should be.
The government's not forcing anybody about abortion. The government is forcing individuals to take a vaccine or lose their jobs. This isn't right. Even those who have, many people have taken the vaccine, I applaud them. But even they agree in a majority that those who cannot, whether for disability or religious purposes, should not lose their job over this. That's why.
I agree. They should.
Or is there any part of Maryland's abortion access laws that you would like to see expanded or limited?
So, vaccine question. During the height of the pandemic, we had a member of the Maryland General Assembly look to impeach Governor Hogan for his handling of it. We had a member of the Maryland General Assembly who sought to impeach Governor Hogan because he chose to follow the science, because he chose to listen to the CDC and the NIH, because he chose to listen to Johns Hopkins University and the Maryland Medical Center. That member of the Maryland General Assembly was Dan Cox. And by the way, he stood alone. Even his Republican colleagues did not back that. So when we're talking about what it means and what's going to happen in a Moore Miller administration, we're going to follow the science. We're going to listen to doctors and medical experts and not audience. We're going to ensure that we are going to keep the safety of the people of Maryland first and foremost in all of the decisions that we are going to make. And we're going to work across the state, across the aisle, and working with professionals in order to help us make those decisions.
Would you like to answer the question about what within Maryland's abortion laws would you expand and or limit? Would you like to answer the question?
Oh, yes, please. And so, when we talk about abortion being healthcare, it's really important to because when we're talking about late-term abortions, 99% of abortions are not late-term abortions. When we're talking about late-term abortions, it's usually because there's a medical emergency. It's usually because that family is about to make one of the most difficult decisions of their life. It's because that family has now received news, chances are unexpected news, that no parent would ever want to have to make, and no person would ever want to have to make. And so I trust women to be in partnership and relationship with their doctors. And I do not believe that lawyers and politicians and judges should be getting in the way of that relationship between a woman and her doctor.
But unfortunately, that's not what my opponent believes, because he stood here just now saying that he would decide whether or not you are forced to take an experimental EAU authorized vaccine. That's not the approach of freedom. And I think the approach to get back to is to say, let's let the people decide. That's my approach. I want to get back to safety, making sure we have affordable housing, making sure we have freedom to make our own decisions. and make sure education is world class again. Unfortunately, my opponent stands right here and says that he can make your decisions better than you on some of these issues, and that's wrong.
I find that the usage of the word freedom to be amazing right now, because my opponent talks about freedom, but not the freedom of a woman or girl who have to carry their rapist child. Talk about freedom, but talk about the ability to criminalize abortion for both patients and providers. So if we're going to talk about freedom, let's make sure we're consistent and understanding what you mean by freedom.
This will go to Mr. Moore first. Legal marijuana is a big business. Here in Maryland, residents have a plethora of dispensaries to choose from, but an overwhelming majority of those dispensaries are owned by operators who do not identify as persons of color. We know that Black Marylanders have bore the brunt of legal repercussions for illegal marijuana use. Now that the tide is changing, do you think it's fair to leave Black entrepreneurs that are qualified out of this business that made $600 million last year in this state alone? Do you think there's an equity problem, and what will you do to address it when it comes to legal marijuana?
Thank you. And it is a problem, and it will be fixed and rectified in a more regular administration. You know, we have to understand that if the state votes on question 4, and that in our administration we will make sure that this rollout is fair and is equitable, and that means using this as an opportunity to think clearly about the prospects of additional licensing. How are we thinking about not just everything from the growers and the manufacturers and the paraphernalia providers, but truly using it as an opportunity to help address the wealth gap that exists within our society. But we have to understand that it's not just going to be about that. That we have to talk about the benefits of legalization. We're also not dealing with the consequences of criminalization. And where we've seen inside of communities, and particularly Black and brown communities, that has been disproportionately harmed, that we have to focus on like automatic recognition for those who have convictions. We have to focus on things like being able to deal with the pardoning of people who have criminal records for something that is now a burgeoning industry in the state of Maryland. This is a unique opportunity for the state of Maryland to get this right. And in our administration, both on the economic equity, but also the social justice perspective, this is going to be a priority.
Our laws shouldn't be based upon social justice reimagining of my opponent. We need to get back to fairness, equal justice under law. Everyone should be treated equal. That's why I do support making sure that those who are criminalized for small possessions are no longer criminalized. We need to make sure that we have a path for people to reestablish themselves. They don't lose their job over something like that. That's something that I have worked across the island. In fact, in my committee, worked to decriminalize a few plants, particularly when you consider how so many people have appreciated the effects, even our veterans with PTSD. So, but that's not the thing that we're dealing with. I need to have a regulatory approach, and I pledge to Maryland to work with our construction industry, with our law enforcement, and with all sectors to ensure that there's appropriate testing, to make sure that there's safety on the job, and to make sure that when we walk down the street that people know the rules.
Governor Hogan has name checked a lot in this debate. So
Yes.
a question for both of you. Give us an exact final grade for 8 years of Larry Hogan as governor. And if you would, name a policy of his that you would continue or something that you'd be anxious to change. And if you would.
Thank you. Well, you know, I applaud the governor for being so early and full-throated about the danger of this MAGA movement. I applaud the governor for calling it out early for what it is. That this is a danger to the basic values of democracy. And I'm thankful that the governor very early said that will not support the Republican nominee, despite that being the nominee of his party. But the thing is, I know about this, when it comes to where we are today, we've got to move faster. We've got to make sure that we can have true measurements of economic growth within our state. And that means being able to focus on helping to reduce the regulatory red tape for our small businesses, making sure that we can fix broken procurement laws to increase liquidity to our small and our micro businesses, making sure that we're putting a real focus on our MBEs and our WBEs, being able to provide economic and also educational supports, job training, job reskilling, focusing on apprenticeship programs and trade programs. Because right now in the state of Maryland, we have 2 available jobs for every single person filing for unemployment, because we have a disconnect when it comes to skill sets and the skills that are required for Maryland's growing and diverse economy. We've got to focus on that.
Final grade.
When it comes to skill sets, it's not, so it's Maryland's growing and diverse economy.
I give Governor Hogan an A on everything except the difference of opinion we've had on the handling of COVID. But I will say this, I have stood with Governor Hogan to make sure that our police are protected and back. My opponent would like to defund the police, and he actually had people in my committee on his team doing just that, and I fought against it. And he will take us back to the years before Governor Hogan, who stood against the taxes that we saw 42 tax increases back then. You are going to see tax increases like never before. The tolls are going to rise if Mr. Moore is governor. I will stand against that because I did it. I proved it. I've already done that in the legislature. I stood with the governor on all of these issues. And I've also stood with the governor on school choice. And when you look at Mr. Moore's policies, he's about centralizing education. He's about indoctrination on his website from the state education department. That's not the approach of Maryland. We need to put parents back in charge. That's what I pledge to do as your next governor.
I want to be clear. There is nothing in my plan that calls for the raising of taxes. Nothing. Not a word. So I want to be clear with the people of Maryland about what is switching. Now, the thing that I do know is my opponent's economic plan that he has would defund the police, defund education, and bankrupt the state. My opponent's economic plan that he has put out there would literally defund the police, defund education, and bankrupt the state. We are focusing on our economic plan. And we're focusing on growth. Because we need for our economy to grow, and we need to make sure we have higher levels of participation in our economy. And that means things like fixing a broken childcare system. Because right now, we've had over 750 childcare centers closed since the start of COVID. Oftentimes, they are female entrepreneurs and are never treated as such. And we have to be able to get parents, particularly parents of young children, back into the workforce. It means focusing on job reskilling, job retraining. In my opinion, we the pendulum far too swift in one direction when we started evaluating high schools exclusively on four-year college acceptance rates, when that's not the path for every student. It wasn't my path. So we have to get our economy going and making sure we're getting more people able to participate in the new economy, in Maryland's new economy.
My economic plan will not defund the police. I've fought for 4 years to support the police, making sure they have the funding they need, and I've stood with the governor on this issue. My opponent actually is on record, Salon.com, saying he will defund the police because of 400 years of systemic oppression. And that's ludicrous. It's extreme. We need to focus on making sure that our economy works. And I take exception to the fact that my opponent's plan says that he's not going to raise taxes, but it's all about spending. Well, we are at 44th in the nation for income tax. We have to lower that. We are at one of the worst situations for our senior taxes. We have to lower our senior taxes. And when you look at the income tax of our businesses, Delaware does it better. 5.5% income tax rate for businesses. Maryland's at 8.25%. It's no wonder jobs aren't flourishing here. It's no wonder we don't have the training and opportunities that we need to have. I will turn that around and say, let's keep Maryland open for business. Let's lower our taxes, not just pretend that you're not going to raise them, because every time you increase spending, like my opponent's plan includes, you're going to have taxes come to very soon. And I will stand against that, just as Governor Hogan has done.
All right, so we're going to go to Pamela now.
Thank you. Shifting topics, yesterday, as you may know, was National Coming Out Day. And in America, we've come a long way in embracing and accepting people who are LGBTQ+. My question is about public schools. We know that young people who identify as LGBTQ face a lot of challenges. Do you believe these children are being adequately supported in public schools? And are public schools doing a good enough job educating the whole student body about LGBTQ issues? The question goes first to Delegate Cox.
No, we're not doing it, because too many times we exclude the parents from involvement. In fact, I fought against the bill that would literally allow 12-year-olds to receive counseling without the parents even knowing. That's wrong. We need to make sure that parents are, because the data shows that when parents are involved in their children's lives, all of the concerns, whether it be emotional,
I can't get my
sociological,
comfort
or
level
physical
together over
concerns,
here.
are so
See, I'm
much
used to
better.
laying down when I go to
And
bed.
that's what I
Not sitting
pledge to
up.
do as your next governor. What I will do also is ensure that the indoctrination stops. We cannot have transgender indoctrination in kindergarten. I mean, that's preposterous. That's exactly
I
what my
do.
opponent supports. It's on his
Let me see, my
website.
thing is
I
over
will
there.
stand against that and eradicate that from the curriculum. Back to world-class learning, making sure it's all about STEM technology, making sure we have reading, writing, and arithmetic so that our kids can learn like God's intended them to learn. Because why? Every person is made in the Imago Dei. Every person has an equal opportunity, made in the image of God, to have unalienable rights that we protect, and we can't do that when we exclude parents.
Delegate Cox, as a follow-up, what exactly do you mean by indoctrination? What do you believe is going on in kindergartens that's harmful to children?
Well, just look at the documents that are being published right now. There's instruction on, there's books literally in the schools at this moment in Maryland.
Uh-oh, Dan's about to get round around the axle.
Not show you on television. It's so disgusting. But we're going to change that and say, let's get back to math. Let's get back to making sure that our kids know how to read and write. Right now in Baltimore City, for instance, 7% passage rate in some of the schools. These schools need our help. We need to make sure that the $2 billion, for instance, that went into Baltimore City last
Hold
year
that thought, folks.
is actually getting to the classroom, to the teachers and the students.
Mr. Moore, what do you believe public schools should be doing to support and educate LGBT plus students?
Well, I mean, many of the issues that we're discussing are being addressed at the local level. And it's important for the state to understand that we're a partner in that. We don't dictate to the local jurisdictions as to how their education processes work. There is something that I do think it's
Uh-oh.
There is something that I do think is important for people to understand. I have
Where'd you go?
an 8-year-old son. All I ever want for my children is for them to be seen and for them to feel like they're being heard. And I want the same thing for
youth homelessness rate
Can you hear me now?
for LGBTQ youth
Okay.
in our state. It's looking at the fact that trans children or trans individuals, 80% of trans individuals have contemplated suicide. I want to say to all of our LGBTQ youth and families, I see you and I hear you, and all policies that will be made in partnership.
Hey, I have a show going
Because
on right now.
that is how we have to state in partnership.
So, thank you, Tracy. Well, if I may respond briefly. So I have
Okay.
children also.
All right.
As you know, I'm very blessed, my wife and I, and we believe and we understand that when any child is struggling, as my opponent identified, you cannot cut the parent out of that discussion. And that's exactly what my opponent plans to do, because that's the policy right now under this new approach that I have opposed. And that's wrong. We have to get back to making sure parents are involved, to make sure that when I have the opportunity to sit down with my son or daughter, that they know dad is always in the mix for them.
Mr. Cox, you're
That's
answering
the
that
issue.
from your prior answer. We're going to go ahead to Tracy.
And I'm sorry, can I please just say one thing? I am very involved in my children's education, and I care deeply about their education. Do you know who also cares deeply about their education? They're educators.
Okay.
Because we have the same goal. Is to make sure that my children are prepared for the world that they are going to inherit. And we want the same thing for all of our children. And educator participation is not indoctrination. This is a partnership that we have between parents and educators.
But not on your plan. There's no parents out of that plan.
Gentlemen, we're going to give Tracy the floor.
So I would like to shift the conversation to climate change. There was a federal lawsuit filed yesterday by environmental groups to try and prohibit the widening of I-270 and part of the Capitol Beltway with toll lanes as proposed by Governor Larry Hogan. The suit claims the expansion promotes auto dependency and will exacerbate climate change. Where do you stand on transportation and its impacts on the environment in the state? We can start with Mr. Cox.
Well, thank you. I'm a strong advocate. In fact, every year that I've run for office, I've been advocating to ensure that our transportation works so that we have our families getting home to be with their families and to have that opportunity to get home to dinner instead of sitting in what we call a parking lot in my district of 270. That's unconscionable. It actually hurts the environment to sit there and to have the car idling so much. So I support widening I-270. I support widening our bridges and securing our transportation. That's why I will look to the Transportation Trust Fund bring transparency to that, and to make sure that we get these projects done. My opponent though wants to ban gasoline cars. His response is to force us all into some kind of public transportation system. That's the Moore Miller approach, because his running mate was one of the individuals that co-sponsored the legislation. So I will not support that. I believe very strongly in ensuring all the above options are there. I will support transportation as we need to improve that and make sure that works for every Marylander.
I'll once again start with that is just not true. But when we talk about transportation assets, we are going to make sure that we are doing things like addressing the deep congestion that sits on 270 in the Beltway. It is psychologically, economically, and environmentally dangerous to have that level of congestion. So we are going to address that, along with making sure that we are fixing the American Legion Bridge over this next decade. It is unsafe, along with making sure that we are going to get the red line done in Baltimore. Because you cannot talk about economic vitality if you do not have east-west transit. But there are three lenses that we're going to do every single economic project. One is through the lens of equity, making sure we're understanding who is building it and who can benefit from it. The second is the environment, making sure that the transportation assets that we're pulling together are actually not only not hurting the environment, but actually using transportation assets that help it. And the third piece is making sure there is local involvement and local engagement. We're going to address the issue of congestion, but we're going to make sure that we're doing it in an environmentally sound way. And that includes things like being able to add the electrification of the grid for electric vehicles. That means adding mass transit options. This is Maryland's time to lead on this. We have unique resources to do so, and that's what Maryland will do.
So much trying to be quick with one last question to get you into your closing statements. One last one from Alexis.
All right, last question, gentlemen. If you are elected,
I don't like this debate.
Governor for the state of Maryland, to address disparities, and specifically disparities in communities that are disproportionately placed next to highways, next to power plants, and industrial areas that have more pollution.
Leave no one behind. That is the mantra, that's the agenda that we are going to have for our, not just campaign, but for our administration. That every single community must be seen and heard in conversations. And the truth is, for many of you who have said to me in the past year and a half, we don't feel seen, we don't feel heard by our elected officials. The reality is, for many of you, you haven't been. That there's a reality of, for example, in Baltimore, that children in Baltimore have double the asthma rate of the rest of this state. There's a reality that in the Eastern Shore, because of climate change, that we have literally a quarter of the Eastern Shore that in the next 50 years is in danger of flooding for its businesses and homes. And so we're going to make sure that we're starting with a core focus on building out equitable frameworks in the way that we're talking about environmental supports, affordable housing, making sure that we're addressing the healthcare disparities, and that includes things like the negotiation of prescription drug costs, and making sure we're making it easier for seniors to be able to age in place and age in dignity, and also ensuring that we can have an accessibility to healthcare coverage for every single Marylander.
Gentlemen, I want to get your closing statements and answer this question.
So I'm going to start by, first of all, pointing out that my opponent is, just to be able to rebut cars, he is on board with, and he even said it, changing the electric grid to allow for electric cars. And it's not just the allowance of it. We have a 2035 plan that he supports that ties us similarly to California, which has a plan to ban gasoline cars. That's a problem. It's not going to work for our small businesses. And when my opponent says he wants to leave no one behind, well, unfortunately, as a CEO of Robinhood, a nonprofit that's supposed to help the poor, he left Baltimore behind while he was making millions. He's currently living in a $3 million home while he leaves Baltimore and the rest of the state.
If you'd like a closing statement, I got to stop you now.
Well, I'm going to just wrap it up because I see I had 16 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, let me finish talking.
Well, that was actually my time, but for the question.
Why did they cut him off?
So I would object to saying that that's my closing statement. I think that the health disparities are clear. I'm a Medicaid supporter. I will provide community health clinics. We'll work to expand our health care across the state.
We got to move, sir. Mr. Moore, closing statement, please.
Thank you so much. We've spent the last hour hearing how my opponent's dangerous and divisive views would restrict abortion access.
You're getting a closing statement.
Well, I was told I was supposed to go first because he went first. That's all. That was the rules.
Mr. Cox, if you'd like to go first, go right ahead.
Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Follow the
very much.
rules.
Well, it is an honor and privilege to be your next governor if I earn your vote, and I'm here to earn your vote. I'm going to once again make Maryland safe. Why? Because we are dealing with some of the worst aspects of crime in not only the nation, but in the world. My opponent wants to defund the police. He wants to, quote, indict the system. I will stand against that for you. I will be the only balance possible, because a one-party rule is not the way of the future of Maryland. We have to have an opportunity for safety, for affordability of housing. I will lower property tax assessment valuation so we can cut those rents and cut those taxation. I will make sure that we have freedom, once again, where you choose your health care with your doctor, and education must be world-class. We're going to end the indoctrination. We're going to end the politicalization of our classrooms. We're going to make sure teachers are empowered and parents are back in charge. I am humbly asking for your vote. Thank you for the opportunity. You go to coxforfreedom.com and sign up.
Mr. Moore, thank you. We have spent the last hour hearing about how my opponent's dangerous and divisive views would restrict abortion access, and his economic plans would move Maryland backwards. So you can see we have very different views on policies, but we also have very different values. You know, my opponent likes to throw around the word freedom, but freedom is not an empty word to me. My life could have gone a very different way after my dad died. I could have been left behind. But I'm running for governor because we can do better. As a state, we can get these deadly illegal guns off our
Is he
street.
reading?
We can build an economy that lifts everyone. We can protect abortion access. I've spent my entire career bringing people together to make our country, our state, and our communities better. That's what real patriotism looks like. And I'd be honored to have your support as we move Maryland forward in this next decade.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Have a good night. The choice is yours. Into the voting booth. Go. Thank you.
This was a horrible debate. I'm going to turn this TV off.
Good night. The choice is yours. Into the voting booth. Thank you.
That was horrible. That was a waste of time watching that debate. A waste of time.
Well, I don't know if you want to have commentary. If you feel that people saw enough to not even need commentary to be able to make their own decisions, where do you stand on that?
Oh my goodness! At this point in time, I don't. Oh, you know what? Give me 1 second, because I'm sitting up here talking to you. I have shows going on. Oh man, I'm in the wrong place right now because I will go to sleep. Let me put this show on. That was a horrible debate. I don't feel like some of the questions were fair. It was just horrible. And you know, the other thing is, oh, that was Alexa talking. I was like, who is that in the other room? The other thing is that, you know, we're going to have to get Dan somebody who can show him how to, you know, if he really wants to win this thing, you got to come back with some, you know, some power and punch.
He's got to what? Clap back.
There you go. You got somebody. See, he needs. I got to find out. I'm gonna ask him too when I talk to him. Does he have any black people helping him? Because he needs some black people on there who can show him that when somebody is talking to you and they say certain stuff. I love debating, especially in a debate. You got to know how to come back. Make them, you know, come back and punch you. Like this is like boxing.
Because when Westmore started talking about January 6th, I just you know what? I don't even have a rebuttal to you because I don't even know who you are, where you from, where you was raised. So what you talking? I'd put it down right like that.
Yeah, we gotta get him. We gotta get him some help.
He needs the art of the clap back.
Because that wasn't good. That was not good.
No. So, but when it comes to policy, Westmore didn't have, I really need to be clear on this. this is not because I vote Republican that I'm saying this. Westmore legitimately did not have one policy that he actually spoke of beyond a 3-word soundbite that I can agree with, nor believes he's actually researched and has a clue as to how the words coming out of his own mouth will affect the individual residents and voters in the state of Maryland. Now, you want to talk about slamming Dan for using the word freedom, but saying he wants, and I'm a attack a real sensitive issue. Ladies, I need y'all to not try and jump down my throat right now, because if you come for me, I'm coming right back at you anyway. But I need y'all to hear me on this. When Dan talked about freedom, and Westmore chose to use that word freedom, whip that thing around and say, but he wants to take the freedom from women to be able to make a choice, from women and girls. Let me be very clear. I don't particularly have too much respect for any man that wants to talk about abortion, because it ain't like they ever had one or gonna get one. That's number one. Number two, let me be very, very clear. Everybody has a right to decide which side of the abortion argument you stand on. But please, let's not confuse something. Abortion is not a healthcare right. It's homicide of a tiny human being. Abortion is not a form of birth control. It's a lazy choice if that's the way you want to choose to take care of your birth control needs. Now, when we want to talk about freedom, when we want to talk about making ourselves safe and this and that and the other, if it's legal to get an abortion and you want to get one, fine, go ahead and do it. But don't pee on my leg and tell me it's rain. If we're going to talk about stop killing, let's stop killing across the board. But if we're not, then go ahead and spin it the way you want to spin it. In this state, as with every other, you will have the opportunity to vote on how your state and where your state positions itself on abortion. But please, let's take some of those misguided buzzwords out. Abortion is not healthcare. Abortion is not about protecting freedom, because nobody's considering the freedom of that unborn child that didn't ask to be created in the first place. So if we're going to be real, we're going to be grown, and we're going to be adult, let's be real about that. That's that issue, because I wanted to get that out the way first. Now, education. We want to talk about freedom of education. So, and you know, Westmore, and I took notes. So Westmore wants to add, federal funds that are going to be allocated to increase resources for after school care and this, that, and the other thing. And that's all cute and that's well and good. And he wanted to point out and boast about how, he had the support of the teachers union. Let me be very clear. No teachers union in this country is going to support a candidate that actually believes in parents having the right to choose the best educational opportunities for their children. Because any parent that really wants to get a good school for their child understands. Let me break this down 2 ways. A parent that wants a really good education for their child is either already placed or contemplating placing their child in public school, or they understand how to look for and score the best public schools in their district. Now, when you say freedom of choice and you say all that smoke and mirrors, the bottom line is this. Parents should have the opportunity to choose the school that best suits the needs of their child, because not everybody learns the same, and that they should have a hope of having a child that is well educated, well adjusted, and able to take their next steps, whether that be college, trade school, military, or whatever the case may be, but that they are prepared to compete on a global scale in whichever direction they choose, whether, again, it's college, military, or trade. We're not getting that from our schools. Now, the reason why the teachers support Mr. Moore is because Mr. Moore does not support a parent having the right to choose what is the best educational opportunity for their children. Think about it. You're going to support the one that supports you, and self-preservation. Self-preservation is a strong, strong thing. So when Mr. Moore says he supports schools and he wants to add more money and this and that and the other, when you talk about doing that to get to a point of quality education, why come I don't hear anything about accountability? Now, y'all may say that's a partisan phrase, but it is not. Accountability simply means if I'm married, my husband's making money and I'm making money, and we put that money together, and he goes off on a Vegas spending spree and spends everything up, trust and believe that accountability is going to look real special when he walk back up in this house. That's the way families have accountability. One cannot do without the other. So why is it when we talk about something as big as $1 billion industry of public education, we can't expect that they get it right? Your car, you drive your car every day. It starts squeaking. Your brakes stop catching. You take it to the mechanic. Mechanic says, well, you waited a little too long, so we got to do the rotors, the pads, the shoes, grind things down, all that. Okay. So they charge you a couple $100. You pick up your car. You go to the stop sign, slide through because the brakes didn't catch. Are you okay with that? Our taxes pay for a quality education. Our children are not getting that quality education. Any other person, grown folk in their right mind, that in their own pocket pays for a service, you expect to get that service. Why do we make an exception for public education? I'll move on. Now, we talk about spending and changes in spending to be able to make sure that seniors are able to age well and in their home, and that drug prescriptions, the costs are capped, and all of these sorts of things, which sound great. However, we are already at the height of states with our tax rates. We tax entirely too much. We cannot, if you're a business owner and you're in the Mid-Atlantic region, and you look to the north at Delaware and see their tax rate. You look a little bit to the west, northwest, and see Pennsylvania's. You look farther to the west and see, I got you. You look at 2 o'clock, see Delaware. You look at 10 o'clock, see Pennsylvania. You look at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and see West Virginia. All of them have lower tax rates than Maryland. What makes you think that by not lowering the tax rates to be competitive, we're going to be able to attract businesses? Now, that may not matter to some of you, but businesses mean jobs. So if we don't address our tax structure to make Maryland a more attractive state for businesses, we're not going to have business growth here. We're not going to have people moving their businesses here, starting them here. For those of you that have friends that are business owners or a business owner yourself, ask yourself this question. When you registered your business, what state did you register in? And I guarantee you it wasn't Maryland. How many people are operating in the state of Maryland that have registered their business in Delaware? Why? Taxes. How many people in Maryland started their business, operate their business in Maryland, and have them registered in West Virginia? Why? Taxes. If Maryland really wants to be a trend-setting, cutting-edge state in terms of education, economic opportunities, safety, property values, all the metrics that people look at, we have to address our tax structure, period. No one in their right mind is going to say, hey, I want to move to a state that's going to cost me a whole lot more across the board just because. It doesn't work that way. If we really want to be able to breathe life into the words that Mr. Moore uses of economic opportunities, you have to address the tax structure. You have to fix the public school system. You have to fix the transportation system. Now, I clearly heard about fixing the transportation in a way that is people-friendly, neighborhood-friendly, and environmentally friendly. I also heard about increasing access to places to charge electric cars and trying to push us towards the whole electric car market. Can any of you tell me, name for me, any one make or model electric car that's under $30,000? Other than perhaps a moped that you charge overnight, and that's, a little different. But can any of you name me one brand, one make, one model of any car in this country under $30,000 that is electric? When you can do that, then we can have a real and substantive conversation about switching to electric cars. But I live in Baltimore. And if we were being honest about this, I don't know in the city of Baltimore, which is the largest city in the state of Maryland, and quite frankly, both of the gubernatorial candidates ought to be kissing everybody's feet up in this city and begging for our votes, because we are the largest city in the state. Now, when we talk about electric cars, you have to be able to afford the car. You have to be able to recharge the car. Population in Baltimore, let's round down 500,000. Of the 500,000 residents, how many folks in this city do you think can afford to spend the 60 plus, and that's cheap, $60,000+ it will cost to get an electric car? Yeah. Of those people, how many do you think actually have a driveway? To just stop there. Actually have a driveway. Because some of the laws and the legislations read that you if you have an electric car and you have to charge it, you can't run the cord to the street. Let's think about this for a minute. So that means if you follow Mr. Moore's plan to its natural conclusion, you will need to buy an electric car. But you will need to move to a different place because you're going to need to have a driveway. Because if you buy the car, you cannot charge the car at your home unless you have a home that is your own with a driveway, so that the actual box, the actual place you plug the car in is on your house. Because again, the law stipulates you cannot run a cord from your house to the street to charge the car. So under Mr. Moore's plan, moving towards electric cars means you're putting yourself in a position that you're going to buy a car that you will not be able to operate unless you have a driveway. So if you don't have your own house with your own driveway, you will not be able to sustain realistically an electric car. So that already prices out a lot of people. Prices them out, boxes them out from not having their own home, all sorts of things. Now, let's move on a little bit further.
I'm on a live also, so there may be people talking. I had you going because, well, let me turn it around, because I had to set up a show. But I'm actually live now, so there'll probably be some other people coming on.
So you double live?
I'm on, yeah, because we got to talk. Oh goodness, we got to talk about this. Who thought it was good? Who enjoyed the debate? Ouch, because I was a little bored with it. I was a little bored with it, but you enjoyed the debate. Let me move this thing out of my face because I look like I'm 1,000 pounds.
Oh.
If you enjoyed the debate, let's talk about it. Me personally, I thought it was boring. I thought it was. I thought they rushed through the questions. I don't feel like they really asked any pertinent questions. Stuff that I was just bored. I get bored very quickly, and I love debates. But this debate was, it was, to me, it was on like an elementary level. It
if I'm being honest, it was on an elementary level, and it was geared to set Dan up to fail.
Well, yeah, I think we got to be. I guess I got to be careful with my words because supposedly I'm running after Dan and making sure that Dan wins. I don't know where people got that from, but I had to
No,
get people last night about that. Because I'm definitely not doing that. But I will say when stuff is right and wrong, and I think a couple of times they cut him off, especially at the end. They cut him off because he was getting ready to get on a roll about something.
Yeah.
Somebody said, is it Remus said, make it exciting. Tell what you want us to know. Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Make it. This was so boring and so bland. And,
it was so much
like
about,
it was on an elementary school level.
Yeah, it was all about what the opponents were doing negative, not what they intended to do positive.
Right.
I know y'all don't like each other. Y'all running against each other. We get that. Tell me what you're going to do if you get in. I don't want to hear what your opponent's going to do and why it's wrong. I want to hear what you're going to do and why it's right.
Thank you.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, it was just not good. And then at the end of it, the reason I said to you, is he reading, is because when he started off reading, he said something about he knew his opponent was going to do X, Y, and Z or whatever. How did you know that before the debate started? That's what I said to you.
Already had because you had your closing statement written and you didn't take the time to actually commit to memory.
Right.
So when you do public speaking like that, you can't, in your opening and in your closing, you really have to be engaging people.
Right.
This is October of 2022.
Right.
The election is in a couple of weeks. People that have requested mail-in ballots have already started getting them.
Mm-hmm.
So conceivably, follow me here, folks. You've been blowing the same smoke for the last year and a half, and you telling me you don't have your own stuff committed to memory yet?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
there's nothing new we heard tonight, and you got to still read the paper?
Nothing was new. Nothing was new. It's the same thing. And I was really, I know you have your disagreements, but just for education purpose. Somebody was sending me something. I got to go back and look at that. But, at this point in time, like you said, November is like right around the corner. It should have just been like boom, 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 boom. This is what I want to do. This is what's going to happen. Da, 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 da. This back and forth, laughing and grinning like it's a high school debate. Like I was bored to death with this debate. I hope, and this is my thing. That's why I said the other day. And I'm gonna still say it, and people can say whatever they want. Say whatever you want. I'm going to sit this one out. I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and vote. I'm going to sit it out. I'm just going to sit it out. I'm going to let people go ahead and vote because at this point in time, and especially what I saw tonight, I think like I said, Dan has to get a black person just on. Hey, Christina. Dan has to get a black person on his team just to show him how to be like this. Because when you say something to me, I'm coming back at you. So somebody has to teach Dan how to do that because it was several times when Dan was like, he was sticking to the books. He was doing what he was supposed to do in a debate. But at the same time, you have to know if somebody is coming for you, you got to know how to come back. You got to know how to get them back. Don't just let that slip by. Yeah, you continue talking and just you being straight from the hip. No, you gotta clap back. So somebody on Dan's team.
I gotta say,
I will help you if you need me.
To the Melanin Challenge folk that may be watching this, y'all need to understand the art of the clap back is very simple. If I'm sitting there and you're my opponent and you come at me with words and I can't back you down with my words, then nobody out there that's getting ready to vote should trust that I'm able to carry them, have their back, or defend them.
Exactly.
And it's as simple as that. Because when you're going for governor, That means whatever comes at you, and some of it's going to be unpredictable, unexpected, and maybe even never seen, because I didn't
Yeah.
expect to see COVID. So it may be never seen. But if I can't believe you strong enough that even with just your words, you can't come back, you can't back somebody down, how are you going to really stand tall and strong when the real stuff happens?
But I
You got to be
think,
able to, you got to be
all
able to
right,
handle your
I'm
own.
gonna disagree with you that on that point for just one bit, because there are strong people out here that can stand up. They just don't know how to clap back. And
Okay,
so
but see, then you're not standing up straight enough.
no,
Because
they
standing
are.
up,
They are.
no.
But a lot of
Mm-mm.
people don't know how to clap back. Everybody don't know
They-
how to do that. I think it's a
but then they're
blessing
not ready for
because we're
prime
gonna clap
time
back.
yet.
We're gonna clap back. You
But
clap at us, we're gonna double clap back at you. That's
but
what
then they're
we're gonna
not
do.
ready for prime time. Because when you're ready for prime time, you're gonna think on your feet. You're gonna understand that things are gonna come at you from different levels. And take all of that away. Take away the personality and the personal. My dudes and dudettes, when you get to the point where you're running for a state executive office of governor, you best to believe you should have had at least one class on crisis management and critical communications, which will teach you the art of the debate, the way you want to do it, and the art of the clap back. And if you ain't got that, you ain't had the class. You're not ready. Sit down. Next.
Okay, so if y'all watching this, I'm actually on Facebook Live because we were doing like a watch party on my YouTube page. The YouTube page is What Up Baltimore TV. So if you want to go on What Up Baltimore TV to see the person that's talking, you'll still see
Uh-oh.
me. You can go on What Up Baltimore TV on YouTube. You'll still see me, but you'll see both of us talking, or you can just stay right where you are, and we can do it this way. But anyway, if y'all have any comments, or if you want to come on the screen, all you got to do is hit the bottom of your screen. It'll let you come on, and you can actually comment and tell me how you felt about the debate that took place tonight. So anyway, this is my thing with the debate. I felt like the questions were boring. I felt like there were areas with those questions that they could have gone into that they didn't venture off into. It was just this. It was. You ever get some food that's just bland that don't taste good? That's what this debate was. It was
This was all
bland.
surface.
Yeah,
It was
bland,
all surface, no substance.
elementary. It would have been good for civics class for kids. It didn't do anything to me. Okay. Now, if you want to make me pay attention, you got to stimulate my brain. You really, really do. That was giving me a snooze fest. It
Yes,
just
ma'am.
wasn't
I would
good.
agree with you on that.
I take so much advice from you. What are you saying? I take some advice from who I think this is. I'm not sure what you mean with that. But anyway, yeah, so that's my thing about the debate. Y'all make sure you share the video. I was trying to share it and then I started talking. But yeah, that was horrible. Like, and the thing about it, the sad part about it is that is the only debate.
Yes,
So
but now
you're telling me,
let's talk about why it's the only debate.
okay,
Now, when you look at the two candidates, right? Because I'm admittedly ignoring the green, the libertarian, the Guns and Roses, the right to. I'm ignoring all them.
he
Not
was nice though. The libertarian guy, he was really nice. He was at the
and
event on Monday.
it's not personal. It's not
Yeah,
personal. It's just political. I'm looking
yeah.
at the two parties, which is Republican and Democrat.
Mm.
When you're at a place where you're at the top of your party statewide and you're
Shoot.
vying for this office,
Uh-huh.
you got to give us some substance. For example, we talked about education. Neither one of them talked about learning loss over the last 2 years.
Nope.
Neither one of them
Nope.
talked about how to close the learning loss gap over the
Nope.
2 years. Neither
Nope.
one of them spoke in any substantive way about the money that can come from the federal government, how to be able to have checks and balances of where we're at, where that money's needed to be spent, and where to get the best bang for the buck to actually improve the academic outcome, not just in Baltimore, but in all of our 23 counties and Baltimore in the state of Maryland. I didn't
Right.
hear any of that. I heard buzzwords Dan's side, school choice. I heard, I don't even know what the buzz phrase was with Wes Moore, but my point is, I didn't hear any of them talk about the boost program. I didn't hear any of them talk about how if parents really want a way out for their children, and we want to talk about leveling the economic playing field. I didn't hear either one of them talk about the boost program, which is the only program.
This was the thing, though. This was the thing. I get what you're saying. Like, you didn't hear them talk about it, but this was the other thing. Because they didn't talk about it, how many people did they have on that panel? One of those people should have been asking some questions. That's how I feel. One of those people on that panel should have been asking some hard questions. That's why I said. That's why I said, exactly. Were the questions, did they ask for certain questions? Because I know, like I said, when I asked to interview Wes Moore, his camp told me, we need the questions you're going to ask him. And I don't like scripted debates. I don't. You're either going to debate.
That already tells me you're not ready, you're not strong enough to stand on your own.
Right. So somebody on that panel should have had some hard questions on there to ask them if they felt like, it's maybe it was their first time being on the panel. I don't know. But it was horrible. That's all I'm going to say.
Wasn't the network's first time of hosting it, that's for sure.
It sure wasn't. But, maybe the panel, maybe it was their first time. But again, this is a multi-million-dollar business. So you don't know enough, and all of these things that you put on TV, you don't know enough to find people who are able to ask questions. I just feel like it was just a setup. That's all.
It was, and it was disingenuous, and it was very surface. I felt as if this debate tonight was to insult, or not, maybe wasn't to insult, but did insult the intelligence of everybody that watched it. That's how I felt. Because I felt like you as a candidate didn't feel that you could go deep enough to give a real answer. I guess because it would have been over my head. But you expect me to go deep enough down that piece of paper ballot to check your name. I think we need to, work that out a little bit better. What do you think, Lady J? Or have you left me again? Folks,
I stepped off for a minute because I need to share this, and then I'm coming back. But I can hear you. I'm still talking.
Okay.
I can hear you.
It's I felt like this debate tonight was an insult to all of our intelligence. It was as if they didn't think that we could handle anything of any substance in any category of policy. I don't think the LGBTQ acceptance of students in schools and parents' rights as far as advocating and educating their children, I don't think that was really even answered on a deep enough level. I don't think that we heard any real talk from Wes Moore, who wants to increase spending and says his plan, let me get this right. He wants to increase and reallocate spending and says his plan doesn't say anything about raising taxes. To be clear, nowhere in that did he say he does not intend to raise taxes. He said his plan does not state he intends to raise taxes. But now, when you're doing your own bills at home and you want to spend more and you want to change up how you spend it, it got to come from somewhere. So if you're not going to increase taxes, but you're going to increase spending, where are you getting it from? An answer to that would have given people a hope that there's actually a little bit of substance there. When you talk about regulating prescriptions, let's talk about that for a second. Now, I sure do not and cannot afford to pay unchecked, ever increasing cost of medication. And I get that. But when you start to check and put a cap on industries and their abilities you start to go down a slippery slope, because what's the next industry? And some of y'all may say, well, if it's not medicine, it's not healthcare, it's a different thing. What I'm trying to tell you is not. Once you open that door and go down that slope, I'm not sure where it stops. So what I would have been interested in hearing is, we believe strongly, in my administration, we believe strongly that there should be a cap on what you have to pay. So the state's going to take some of its surplus and cover the overage, cover the gap. See, if I could hear something substantive of where the money was going to come from, I would have felt better about that. But I felt like we just want to say we're going to cap costs, but we don't want to say it in a way that's real, because if you cap the cost, where's the money coming from? Give me something.
Well, this is my thing. And I'm probably going to get ready to end this live, because they just have worn me out with this whole, it's, I hate when my time is wasted. I do. I hate when my time is wasted, but this is what I want to say. A lot of what they talked about, they're not going to be able to do. Okay. So please tell me some stuff that you're really going to be able to put in place for the state of Maryland. Because some of the stuff they were talking about, who are you talking to? Because you're not going to be able to do these things.
Well,
and I think
okay,
we're all old enough to stop giving us these false hopes and false promises about what you're going to do. Now, that's on both sides, but that's what politicians do. They tell you all this stuff. You can't do it. Stop doing that. Stop doing it. You already know you can't do it. You don't have the power to do certain things. You know that when you talk about crime, listen, nobody can do anything about crime. You just can't. You can't. Okay? So stop saying that you're going to do this, you're going to do that, because you're not. Defunding the police, all this kind of stuff. Get to the issue in this state or in this city, which is education. Can we talk about education?
No.
Can we please talk about education?
No.
Children, we had, and I said this, I forgot where I was at, but you have all of these educated politicians. You have children who are in school who need to get their education as well, so they can grow up and be successful. So can we talk about education? Can we talk about the food deserts that are going on right now? Can we talk about certain things that are really, really going on right now, and all of this other buffoonery that you're talking about that you know that you're not going to be able to do, and you just wasted a whole hour of my life talking about nothing. Then you get on the LGBTQ. You're not going to do anything. Okay, they're too powerful. They're everywhere. They're here. They're everywhere. So whatever it is that you try to shut down, you're not going to be able to do it. Okay, so just stop it. Andre James, I'm glad you love Westmore. That's what we're having a conversation about. Westmore and what was I going to say? TD Jakes, Westmore and maybe I need to go listen to a sermon. Westmore and Dan Cox. And Wes is good at that camera though. Wes is very good at the camera.
Is.
He plays to the camera. He's laughing and smiling. See, when and this is my other thing. I hear you, Andre James, but this is my other thing. I live in Baltimore City. I ain't trying to see your teeth, okay? I ain't trying to see no teeth, no laughing, no smiling, none of that.
Because ain't nothing funny going on.
Yeah, where I live, it ain't no laughing and smiling matter. So even though, like, behind me, I got my window open, but I think at one point y'all saw me look back because I heard some noise out there. But where I live at, it ain't no laughing and grinning, and I want to see your teeth kind of matter. So I didn't like that about him. Maybe that's his demeanor. That's what he does, because some people, smile it out when they talk. But when you're doing a debate and you're talking about what you're going to do, especially when it comes to Baltimore City, don't be laughing and grinning with me. Because I
nothing about it funny.
No, we live in an area where, I think in Beirut they probably have it better, but it's just like it was certain things that was happening, and I'm like, no, Now, if you're going to debate, go ahead and debate, but get to the issues. You wasted a whole hour of my life that I'm never going to be able to get back, and I spent $20 getting a pizza. I'm never gonna be able to recover that, y'all. I can't get it back. I'm just like so done right now.
But the
I
pizza was
think
good, you said. So at least that was worth it.
the pizza was good though. It was good, y'all. I got it from Papa John's. It was good. But you know, in all seriousness, like I hope they don't feel like they did well. I really do. I hope they don't feel like they did well. And I blame them, and I also blame uh, these people that were asking questions. Now we can be hard on each other. I'm talking about Black people. We can be hard on each other when we're asking questions, but you
Mm-hmm.
can be hard on the candidates. Let me see. Andre James said Cox is not for everyone. I completely understand. Cox is not for Be More. I don't know if listen. Let me listen. Let me just say this. I don't care who is for Be More. I want to know what you're going to be able to do. I don't care if you're a squirrel. What are you going to be able to do for the city? Don't stand up there and just have this banter back and forth and you're not saying anything. That's my whole point. That's all I'm saying. Westmore, I haven't really seen him in Baltimore. I heard that he's been in Baltimore. I've tried to reach out to talk to him, to get an interview, to do this. I read the email that I got from his people, okay? He wasn't interested. And he didn't just turn me down, he turned down a lot of people. So I don't know what Westmore can do to Baltimore. For Baltimore, I hear him talking, but I don't know what he can do to Baltimore for Baltimore. I have seen Dan around in Baltimore, you know. But again, until you actually get in that position, I don't know what you can do. But at this point in time, you know what? I've been dealing and Pastor Shannon, she was a politician. I've been dealing with these politicians since 2019. I'm about to just jump off because at this point in time, it's a lot. You know, it's just a lot with these politicians. And if y'all don't just tell the people, just want to know, what are you going to do? And if I don't feel like, if this is my thing too, sorry I'm talking so long, but if you don't live in Baltimore City, you really don't know what we're talking about. You really have no clue. And so when you hear me being passionate, when you hear me getting on these politicians, it's because every day that I get up, I don't know if I'm going to come back home. I don't know if a bullet is going to come through this window. Most people in my neighborhood don't have their window open. I just always take a chance and just open the window up because I like to get air coming through. So I take a chance. But it's like Russian roulette. You never know what's going to happen. And so when you hear me being passionate, when you hear me getting on the politicians, that's the reason I'm this way, because every day I wake up to it, and I'm surprised I don't hear them now. Ambulance, the helicopter in the sky, the police cars, the fire trucks. It's like every single day. It's like breathing. And when I go places and I don't hear it, it feels strange that I don't hear it, so because I'm so conditioned to hearing it and dealing with crime. Now, he said, what are we going to do for ourselves? Andre James, what are we going to do for ourselves? I'm trying to live. That's what I'm doing for myself. And I shouldn't, and this is my thing, Andre. You said, what are we going to do for ourselves? I think we do a lot for ourselves, but if you're in place, if you're positioning yourself in place and you want our vote, you need to come with it. You need to tell us what you're going to be doing. What kind of legislative rules are you going to put in place? That's all I'm saying. We do a lot for ourselves. Just surviving every day. Over here where I live at, I don't know where you live at, but in Baltimore City, to survive every day is a lot. He said, when are we going to stop killing ourselves? I don't know, because I'm not killing myself. I don't know. I don't live in that world, so I'm not really sure when they're going to stop killing. Killing is never going to stop because we live in a sinful world. So the only thing you can hope for is that you don't get killed, like you're not in the number. That's all I can hope for. That's all I got to say about that. But anyway, hey Josh, how you doing? It's just sad, you know. And something you said was them talking to us or doing this debate as if, and I can't say us because they're talking to all of Maryland. So I'm, I got to get my mind out of just Baltimore. But when you're having a conversation and it just sounds so elementary, that was just my whole thing with it. It just sounded like it was for a civics class. That's what it sounded like to me. when I was in school. I'm done my rant because I see hit a police car. Didn't I just tell y'all? I was surprised that I hadn't heard it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all day long. Police cars all day. Crime all the time. People in my neighborhood getting shot, robbed, carjackings. All every day. Every day. And so when you see me being passionate or I just look like I'm just going off, yeah, because I live in a crazy city. And like I said, every time I walk out that door, it's rolling the dice because I don't know if I'm going to make it back home. So when you're doing a debate and you're standing up there talking about what you're going to do for Maryland, for Baltimore, the surrounding counties and all of that, I don't want to see your teeth. I don't want to see no laughing, no grinning. I need you to get to the point and tell me what you're going to do. All right? That's it. That's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on my Christmas pajamas because I couldn't find my other ones. I said we was going to wear pajamas tonight. Andre St. James said, be more can be the next Wall Street. Andre, where do you live at? Where do you live, Andre? Please tell me. You don't have to give me your address. What county do you live in? Because you don't live in Baltimore City. You don't live in Baltimore talking like that. Hey, Miguel, you don't live in Baltimore. You don't. And I'm not rich, but I'll put money on it. You do not live in Baltimore City. Where do you live? You said Baltimore can be the next Wall Street. We are stopping ourselves. Where do you live? You don't know anything about the politicians in our city. You don't know what's going on in our city. You don't know what it's like living in our city. Where you live at? Because you don't live here. Because you wouldn't have made that comment. We already know we can be great. But if you don't have the right people in place to empower these children and these people that live here, ain't no greatness going to happen. Okay? So that's how I know you don't live here. Hey, Dr. Porter, that's how I know you don't live here because you wouldn't have said that. Because you would already know what's going on. All right. Y'all done got me hot and everything.
Well, now. All righty then.
He don't live here. He don't live in Baltimore. He don't. He don't live in Baltimore City. He don't. Where you live at, Andre? You don't have to say. He said, all he said is, yeah, because you don't live in Baltimore City. You don't. You people that don't live in the city, I know you don't live in the city because of certain things that you say. He said, then get rid of Scott. You don't live here, Andre. I can't even. I'm gonna tell you why you don't live here because you saying a whole bunch of stuff, and people that live in Baltimore City know there's certain things you don't say because certain things can make you lose your life. Okay, so when you're talking about getting rid of Brandon Scott and doing all of this, and you calling names and you doing certain things, you don't do that in Baltimore City. Okay, so I know you don't live here. I know you don't live here. You ain't get me pulled up in it because I live here. You want to get rid of Brandon Scott? Do your thing. Do your thing. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Well, I know that there are 23 other counties, well, 23 counties plus Baltimore City. And I know that they each have different types of concerns and issues. But again, if you're looking at it from a sheer numbers perspective, Baltimore is the largest city in the state of Maryland. You look at it from the perspective of the amount of colleges and universities, the waterfront, not just the waterfront, but the port. Baltimore City should be the driving economic factor for the state. So you need Annapolis to lead right and encourage and arm twist, if necessary, the folks in Baltimore to lead right.
We got a comment.
That would be my hope for the next governor.
All I can do is pray. I just trust God. That's all I can do because I'm just done. Robert said, Andre, he said, tell him what Brandon Scott has not been doing. Okay, that's for you, Andre James. That's from Robert Black. He said, so tell me what Brandon Scott hasn't been doing, Andre. We're going to let Andre talk because Andre don't live in Baltimore. Lady J ain't just not going to do a lot of talking because I live here. I'm going to drink my water. I'm let Andre talk. This is Andre's show. Oh, let
Okay.
Andre talk about Brandon Scott. Go ahead, Andre. You talk about Brandon Scott and these politicians. Because Lady J has seen some people disappear and get beat up for running their mouth. I'm going to be quiet on this one. But back to the debate. What I was saying about the debate. Man, I wish they were having another one, though. I wish
I do
that...
too. I wish that the candidates were both straightforward enough and brave enough to actually do a debate that with questions that came from the community.
Okay, let me say this in defense, and y'all don't be saying Lady J running after Dan and all this kind of stuff. Dan is willing to do a debate. Dan has been willing to do a debate.
I said both candidates. I didn't say. I understand where you're going.
I want to make it clear that Wes Moore is the one who said no more. There will only be one debate. That's why I had asked in one interview, is he the governor? He said there will only be one debate. And that was what they had tonight. Dan has always been willing to do another debate. I have all the emails, and I read a couple of them in my lives.
So ideally, there'd be 2 gubernatorial debates and 1 lieutenant governor debate.
Oh, I forgot about them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're not debating at all. I guess we're supposed to just go ahead and vote on who looks the best or who talks the best. I don't even know what Avrina Miller sounds like. I don't know anything about her. I learned a little bit about Gordana on Monday at the thing we had on Monday, but
you mean the thing that at least Gordana decided to show up for and nobody else did? That one?
Yeah, Gordana showed up.
Mm-hmm. But no one from Moore's camp showed up.
For the people. How can you be for the people when you are afraid to talk to the actual people? West ain't for us. Well, that was from Robert Black. That's my thing. You got to talk to me. I need to know. It's like, how can, I mean, does he?
If you got to start that question over that many times, you need to just go ahead and spit it out. What's the question?
Does
go ahead,
Wes
say
Moore
it.
actually make decisions without talking to people? I'm just asking. Who does that? Like, do you make decisions without talking to people first, or you like if somebody, we got to have a conversation. First of all, if you're asking for my money, for my vote, for my time, we got to sit down and have a conversation because I got to know where this thing is going. But if there's no interaction and I'm not able to really talk to you and ask any questions, like who does that? Do y'all do that? James said this vote is a hot raggedy mess. I mean, who does that?
Wrong.
So does anybody out there, do y'all know anything about have any of you seen, maybe I missed it, y'all, because I try to be on top, but have any of you seen a debate between the 2 candidates that are running for lieutenant governor? Because I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. I didn't think about it. You said something.
There should be 2 governor and 1 lieutenant governor. There should be 3 debates.
Robert said, we don't even know where West stands. What's his goals? What's his mission? I saw his commercial and I was once more confused on who he was. Well, apparently, this is what I heard, okay? This is what I heard, that he is several steps ahead of Dan, I'm going to say Dan Moore, Dan Cox. He's several steps. I don't really know because I haven't looked at the numbers. But
30 percentage points.
Say that
32
again?
to be exact. 32 percentage points.
So he's 32 percentage points ahead of Dan Cox. And the other thing that I've heard is that he is going to win. That's what I heard.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, this is from people who are not just talking. These are people that, I can't get my sources, but that's what I heard, that Westmore is going to win. And I'm just trying to figure out what in the heck is going on. Are we in a society and in a world now where I know we're all caught up in social media, but is it just to the point that there's no more communication, conversations
Yes.
now gone out the
Yes.
way? You just tell me I'm gonna do something for you. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be a good candidate for you, and I put you in office. That's where we at right now. That's why I said I got to sit this one out. I got to think about this one because this is a whole new world. It's a whole new world for me because I'm used to debating. I'm used to people talking. I'm used to that kind of sparring going back and forth. And
Right.
lately, it's just been I'm who I am and vote for me. Now, I haven't seen either. I'm going to put my head down on this one, but I haven't seen any one of them in a governmental office. I don't know, maybe y'all have, but did they, were they, have they been elected officials or anything else? Did
Well,
y'all?
Dan's a state delegate.
Okay.
He's the only one that's served in an elected office.
Okay. I was just wondering. I was just wondering.
Only one. The other has had no elective office at all.
In that case, I can run for governor. I can run for
You
governor.
could. You meet the qualifications.
I can run for governor. Because right now, all I got to do is sit up here and say, I'm Lady J. I do this, I do that, and I do the third. Y'all vote for me. Vote for me. We're going to work this out together. I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're going to work it out together. Because that's what it's coming down to me.
Exactly.
James Smith said, I am sick of this mess. Children in pre-K can do better than this. We live in the time of the Jetsons. He is so right. He is so right. He is so right. It's sad. And we live in a time where people don't think for themselves. Somebody can tell you that they're great, and you just run with the wind and take off because they said they're great. Woo. That's why I said this is gonna sound really bad, but that's why I said when people pass away, I don't even cry anymore because I should be crying for myself because I'm still here with this mess. He said,
"Bless you."
Robert said, "I'm gonna write you in, Charlene. You got my vote."
Well,
it's like I'm saying, I might as well go ahead and say, I'm gonna run for governor because it's like what I'm seeing, what I saw tonight in the debate. Anybody can do it, and apparently, if you have money behind you, you can go very far.
You can.
People, you can go as far as you want to go in this, and it's just sad.
That's accurate.
Govern ourselves. That's what I say. We better learn how to govern ourselves. Now, where Andre go at? Andre just disappeared out of the conversation. We gotta learn how to govern ourselves because at this point in time, I just don't know. I don't know. I didn't hear anything that made me feel better about who or what I need to vote for. I just didn't hear it tonight. I think if we could have another debate, a different type of forum, like you said, maybe with people asking questions. Let people come up to the mic and ask questions like we did Monday. Let people come up and ask a question as opposed to them being in a room, which is so archaic. Like I said this the other night, we have social media now. They could have been sparring back and forth on social media. You could be doing so many different things, pop-ups here and there, but we're going to stay back in the 1900s in the 19th century. So I just said, listen, I'm done. I'm going to sit this one out. I am. And y'all can talk about me all you want. I'm going to eat the slice of pizza. You can talk about me because I'm going to sit this one out. I'm not seeing what I need to see. What am I voting for? What am I voting for? A whole hour.
That's a good question.
Wasted. A whole hour of my life was wasted. But this, and I spent $22 because for this pizza. But anyway, the pizza was good. This was worth it. This was good.
So I'm just saying, it wasn't a complete waste. You got good pizza.
I got good pizza.
Unfortunately, my husband placed an order for us for dinner, and he just told me they canceled the order.
Oh, they did. They probably got mad because they were watching the debate. They probably said, "Forget it." And Joyce said, neither one of them convinced her. But you know what? Let me put this pizza down for a minute. I am going to say this because, and I was starting to say it before, and I got, oh wait, what time is it? And I got off track. Dan, at the end of that debate, Dan was going to go somewhere. He was on that. He was going to go somewhere, and that man cut him off. And I need somebody to explain to me, was it just me, or did y'all see that? He was getting ready to go down Westmore Street, and that man jumped in and cut him off, and then Dan got flustered, and Dan was just like, I still got 15 minutes. You told me I could, yeah. I would have said, excuse me. According to the clock, I still got 15 minutes. You just took 15 seconds. You just took 2 or 3 seconds away. I would have kept right on talking.
I would have talked till they cut off the microphone if I really felt like it. I'd have been talking through the credits. And I've done it before.
That's more street, okay? And somebody, let me eat my pizza because
it's called a filibuster. I would have filibustered all over that debate tonight. I would have kept it going till they turned the mic off.
I would have kept right on talking. He would say, oh, excuse me. And this was my thing. He would say, excuse me, that's not your closing argument. No, excuse you. How do you know that's not my closing argument? Maybe that is my closing argument. Now you just took 5 more seconds. They wouldn't have never had me back at the debate because that's what I would have told them. You want to tell me, I'm going to woo. Sorry, y'all. Hey, boo. He gonna tell me that's not my closing argument. How do you know that's not my closing argument, sir? That right there, I didn't like that.
I didn't either.
I did not like that. And it's not that I'm a Dan lover and all this kind of stuff. I would have said if he did it to Westmore. Let these people say what they have to say. You don't have the right to come in and say, oh, that's not your closing argument. Mind your business, and you just be the moderator or whatever you're supposed to be. Sit on your chair until my 15 seconds is up, and then you speak. But he was that right there tripped me out.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It makes me think a certain way.
Like it was a setup from the beginning.
Yeah.
I figured you were going there.
Because why would you feel like it's okay for you when you told them, go ahead and do your closing remarks? All of you can see the time clock. So what was the reason for the cutoff? Why did you cut the man off while he was talking?
Good question.
And then he had to come back and see, listen, let me tell y'all something. The Dan Cox camp, y'all better get some black people in that camp. I don't know who. I'm gonna reach out to some people. I'm not even playing because I know the people in this camp. I don't know who was helping him tonight. But Dan Cox, and me and Dan gonna talk anyway because he told me he's gonna do a whoa, y'all got my head hurting. He told me
snatch your wig off, get some air. You be all right.
I should snatch this wig off. I got it pinned on so tight. But look, he told me he's going to do a debate with me, right? And I mean, not a debate, interview with me. And I am going to ask him, but I'm going to say this right here. Because like I said last night, when I say something, them Republicans be like, them Republicans be like, Lady J said, they be going at it. So listen, I know y'all watching tonight. He needs to have an African-American person on his team.
I'm not talking about wasting too many syllables. He need a black person from the hood. Let me explain. You need a black. No, let me put it this way.
They don't even have to be from the hood.
You need no. You need a melanin-rich polyglot. There we go. Now ask me why I said that.
Listen, Let me tell you something.
No, come on. Ask me the
You,
question.
why you say that? Why did you say that?
Okay. Because first of all, black means you have a certain level of clapback. That's number one. Number two, polyglot. You need to be able to speak hood. You need to be able to speak Eastern Shore. You need to be able to speak Western Maryland. You need to be able to speak money. You need to be able to speak power. You need to be able to speak God. And unless you can speak all those languages and wrap it up so that you can not only speak those languages, understand those languages, but translate into those languages so that you can speak to whatever room you're in, you are not doing a damn thing and you need to sit down. So that's why he needs a melanin rich polyglot.
He do. And guess what? If y'all hiring, I got my hand up because I'm gonna show you exactly how to handle that. I'm gonna show you because if I was in the room tonight, when they cut him off, that would have been the last time because I would have politely walked over and tapped. I can't remember that newsman's name. I would have politely tapped him on the shoulder and pointed to the clock. Now you can't tell me to sit down because we live. You can't tell me to sit down, but you're gonna be embarrassed because you're gonna give him his 15 seconds. You're going to give him his 15 seconds and allow him to say what he's going to say. Dan started coming around at the end, but he wasn't speaking loud enough. You got to get in that microphone and say, look, you told me that I was going to go first, that I was going to close out first. Dan was in the background like, because he's very polite. He is very polite. And Dan was being his polite self, you know. Well, you said that I could. No, Dan, no. See, we be doing like this. You told me that that's what you got to do. See, we got to teach you how to do these things because otherwise they're going to run over you, Dan. So if y'all hiring, because I don't work for free, but if you're looking for somebody to come and help you out and show you how to do this thing, call me. Let me see what these people's saying.
Now, understand, you got to be able to mix the politics and the policy up in that too. You can't just be clapping with no substance because that's like
no. That's what I'm saying. And that's what he needs. He would need to have those people in the room that are helping him, you're talking about real issues, the things that the people want to hear, and prepare for your opponent to come in and try to bulldoze you. What you gonna do, Dan? Okay, this is what you do in case that happens. See, y'all should have been role playing before did y'all role play? You should have been role playing before all of this happened. Expect things to happen.
You should have been role playing. You should have been videotaping, rewinding the video and
everything. Was y'all doing
rehashing that? Because guaranteed Mr. Moore's camp did. Because he was ready for that camera.
That's why he was smiling. He was playing to the camera. But my thing is, I don't live in Hollywood, so don't smile at me. I live in Baltimore City. I need you to not see your teeth, and I need to hear something coming out of your mouth that's going to show me that you're going to get my vote. You win my vote. Let me see.
Yep. You find anything, Mike? Okay.
Is this Kyra? Wait a minute. Oh no, Chris. I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Okay, Chris, I'm gonna mute my mic for a second.
Chris said they turned in what all they was going to say before the debate. Yep. So they not allowed to change it up. And Joyce said, yes, I believe the debate was scripted. It was absolutely scripted. So why do a debate? If it's scripted, you mean to tell me you're running for office and we can't ask you questions? And this is why I like what we did on Monday night. Because nothing we did was scripted. They didn't know what questions was coming. They sure didn't. But I like the fact that all four of them that were sitting there answered the questions. Well, one of them kind of answered. But they answered them questions. And believe me, I don't do scripted questions. They did not know what was coming. But I do believe, Chris, like you said, I do believe that it was scripted. It was scripted. They got them questions. So, again, if you got the questions up front, if you got these questions up front, there should have been an expectation of what some of the answers were going to be. And so all of these little cutoffs and all of this going on, I didn't like that. Let the candidates say what they have to say. Westmore, you talked about Governor Hogan so much, I think he gave you a check tonight. And the other thing you did was you kept saying, well, my opponent, he's doing this, or he said, come on, sir. We don't need all of that. We want to know. We don't need you to repeat what Dan Cox said. We heard what he said. What we need you to do is come back and tell us how you're going to do it differently. That's how a debate goes. That's what we needed to hear. You kept coming back with my opponent. There he goes again. We not in high school. This ain't no joke. This ain't no game. This is real life. People out here trying to live. They trying to survive. That's why I said I didn't need to see your teeth tonight. I didn't need to see you smiling and doing all these little head gestures and all that kind of stuff. Trying not to go there. It makes me feel like you so cute and you so fine. You can just smile and grin and all of that. Listen, bro, I need you to talk to us and tell us exactly what you plan to do for the state of Maryland, how you can help Baltimore City. What are you going to do? Okay? Because that was, like I said, that was a whole hour of my life wasted that I ain't going to never get back. I ain't going to never get it back. I sure did, Joyce. Joyce to tell you she was looking at me when I did it. Monday night, questions. I took that paper, folded that paper right up. You will not get scripted questions tonight. You won't. If you're
You will
running,
have to speak from the cuff, the heart, everything else.
And that's what they did on Monday. If you went out vote, you sit on that chair, and when it's time for you to talk, you stand up and come to the mic and you answer these questions. And I ain't give them no easy questions. I need you to say what it is. A big thing was abortion. You either for it or you're not. Don't dance around it. We want to hear what you got to say. Zalika was like, oh boy, no, lady. I said, come on. We need to hear what you got to say. People may not like what you have to say, but say it. That's what you're standing on. That's what you're running for.
You know, abortion is not an easy topic to discuss, but it's even harder one. Your conscience should make it even harder for you to go back and forth and waffle on.
Listen, my thing is this. You either believe in abortion or you don't. Don't give me 10 million answers and steps and you got to do backflips and all of that. Do you believe in abortion? Do you support it or you don't support it? Which one is it? And whatever your answer is, I'm going to accept it because that's what you believe.
Yep.
Even if I don't agree with it.
Yep.
But be honest. But see, when you start dancing around and going up and down the street and around the corner, you lose me.
You hiding something, and that's quite obvious. So at that point, I can't believe anything that does finally come out your face.
And they so scared to talk about the LGBTQ plus community. You know, you either believe in it and you support it or you don't. If you don't, you're going to lose some people. If you do, you might gain some people and lose some people. Which one is it? Pick a side. But don't have us out here trying to figure out. Y'all did a whole hour debate, left us trying to figure out what the heck what you stand on. We still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I shouldn't have more questions when the debate's done than I did before the debate started.
And Robert said they can't speak from what they don't know. And that's what I was saying. If you haven't been in certain positions, you don't know. Say you don't know. That's
You're right.
Say you don't know.
You're
I'd
right.
rather tell me that you don't know. And you know what, citizens, I need your help. I'm going to need your help on this. But all of that laughing and grinning tonight, now that kind of got on my nerves, Westmore. All of that laughing and smiling and grinning. I did not like that at all. I really didn't. Because you was doing that too much. You're not a bad looking man. But tonight was not the night. There wasn't time for it.
It sure wasn't.
We needed you to understand the issues.
I felt like I needed to scratch my head a couple times, some of them answers to some of them questions. Yeah. I didn't even understand. I thought some of the questions were even irrelevant, the questions that were being asked.
Thank you.
You have a white Republican candidate and a black Democrat candidate. It can't get any more stereotypic or polarizing. to ask about reparations. You can't get a room full of Black people together and get the same answer on reparations.
Can you tell
You
me?
just can't.
Please tell me why that was even discussed. Why?
I wish I knew.
Why was reparations discussed? Can somebody tell me that?
Because
people, COVID happened. People have lost their jobs. People are homeless for the first time. We got a whole homeless mess going on right now.
Sure
we got
do.
People that can't even go to the grocery store. We got children that's not being educated. They stand up here talking about reparations. This is why I said.
That's why I said some of these questions were irrelevant and divisive, and nothing productive coming from it. Nothing positive. I wouldn't have asked about. If I'm gonna be straight and honest with you, I wouldn't have asked about reparations. I wouldn't have asked about LGBTQ. I wouldn't have asked about the environmental impact on the transportation issue with the overcrowded streets. I wouldn't have asked about none of that.
Let me tell you something. When he gave that answer and said that it is psychologically damaging or something when you guys sit in traffic, sir, I'm about to turn 60. Do you know how much traffic I done sat in?
Now, I happen to agree. It is psychologically damaging.
But
then you got to make the choices and the decisions to not do that. I made a decision a long time ago. I don't want to commute. I don't want to drive. I don't want to travel more than 20 minutes in any one direction to get where I got to go. I made that decision.
But my point is this. Even if it is, what is he going to do about it? What you going to do? You going to come right in and make a new road?
He's going to get in your car with you. And he's going to get in your car with you and woosah so that you can relax and have peace and zen.
I mean, what was the point of the question? That's what I'm saying. What are you going? Do you know how long it takes to widen a road?
He will be out of his limited term.
What are we talking about?
He will be out of his limited term. Because when you decide you're going to make a road, first you got to do a survey. And then you got to actually put it out to the public. And then you got to get bids. And then you got to do impact studies. And all that happens before you lay the first shovel to dig up nothing to make a new nothing. So before that road could get fixed, he will be out of his 2-term limited term.
Now, here's what he should have been talking about. Not psychologically damaged when you're on the road, because a lot of people in Baltimore City don't need to have a car. Okay? Now,
and the roads in Baltimore are physically damaging, much less psychologically damaging with love dang on blasted potholes. But anyway, that's another story.
What he should have been talking about is mental illness. That's what you should have been talking about, mental health issues. Because if you go on Pennsylvania and North Avenue, which I don't know if you've been there, you will see a lot going on. You talking about driving in a car and we getting psychologically damaged in a car. And you're going to stop this foolishness. That's why I said having these debates. And the thing about it, the people that are asking the questions, I really got to lay some blame at their feet. Because if you know that this is the only chance that you get to have these people in front of you, and you talking about reparations, you talking about climate and all this kind of stuff, this is the only chance that you will have to talk to them. That's all the questions that you can come up with. Y'all making my head hurt.
I personally would have done that thing very differently. I would have said, I appreciate the question and that's an issue that's important to you. However, the issues that I know are important to all Marylanders is how to keep food on the table through this inflation and this recession that we either are or aren't heading into. When you look at inflation, when you look at the war in Ukraine, when you look at the Chinese slowdown, and you look at the supply chain interruption, I know it is more difficult and challenging for you to keep food on the table. That's what I would have been talking about. Now, exactly. I know that with the learning loss from COVID, that you as a parent are concerned that your child is still going to be dumb as a bag of rocks by the time they graduate, because they're going to go through school with social promotion anyway, because we're not really caring if we teach any kids. Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. Anyway, I would have been talking about things we could do now to improve education, like Take the limitations off the boost program. Introduce competition in the schools. Tell parents, listen, if you make a certain amount of money, you make between X and X, and you qualify for the boost program, here you go. Put your kid in the private school you want to put him in. Now, introduce that competition. This public schools in Baltimore City will start to act right when they watch their millions draw out because they ain't for so many ghost students they could create. Oops, did I say that out loud too?
Joyce, you're right. Joyce said, I would have said, next question. We'll address that at another.
Did they confirm the order, Mike? Lady J just dropped off on me again.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Keep talking. I'll be right back.
Okay. So, personally,
it's the
it would have been more beneficial if they could have talked about food insecurity and inequality, poor performing public schools, lack of economic opportunity, and an overall decrease not just in the population, but in the quality of life of the population that remains here. If any of them, either of them, could have addressed that in a way that listed steps, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, this is what I'm going to do. And they were things that they said they were going to do that were actually within the state constitution's allotted powers for the executive branch to be able to do, we could have been talking about something. But I don't know, like, for example, I have to take this to Baltimore. Like, Westmore has said that he wants to defund the police. Now, when you want to be governor and you want to talk about you're going to defund the police, now I need to bring that back to Baltimore to explain how that's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Now, in Baltimore, our mayor campaigned on the same thing, defunding police.
I'm sorry. Somebody said, Lady J, close your window. I see a shadow looking in your window. It's not a shadow. It's actually a light post. I know what you're talking about. That's why I was laughing.
Wow.
Light post. Believe me, Lady J got eyes in the back of this wig. I see exactly what I'm talking.
Not the back of your head, in the back of your wig.
In the back of the wig.
You're gonna make me choke.
Listen, you learn how to have eyes in your ears and everything. So even though you're talking, I'm reading and everything, I hear everything that's going on right behind me in that window. Believe me. And I would get up with the quickness, and I can't tell y'all what would have happened if I shut it down. But listen, ain't nobody out there. But thank you. That's the light post, actually. But yeah,
the bottom line is this debate could have been better. The questions could have been better. The answers could have been of more substance. We barely, I don't even think we actually scratched the whole surface, much less got up in anything. Nope.
They didn't scratch a daggone thing.
Nope. Neither one, honestly. If I'm being honest, neither one of them did.
But this is what I wanted to ask you. Is it any way, even though Wes said that he does not want to debate anymore, like this will be his last debate, one and only debate. Is there any way that Dan can just do a debate on his own? Would it make sense?
Well, when one is having a debate with oneself, that's usually where the mental illness comes in. So I'm just saying.
No. I'm not saying it like that. Okay, let me clarify.
I know what you mean. Can it be a debate? Can it do it and have just one candidate?
Can people come out and can he do that? Would it make sense for him to do that and kind of, boost himself up a little bit more and have people come out and talk to him? Like, would that make sense?
I think it's an idea that someone in his camp should be exploring now. Because quite honestly, I don't want to give away, too many secrets and such, but his comms director should have network access and be able to put that thing out on paper and electronically and every other kind of way to say, this is where I'm going to be, this is what I'm doing. All questions welcome.
I told them they need to hire me. I'll help them out. Yeah, Robert, an open forum. That's what I'm talking about. Let it be. Because, see, this is the thing. Oh, I was about to say, like you saw Monday. Like on Monday, people, let me change the back of the screen. People want to ask questions. People want to talk to the candidates. And when something like this happens, I really think that he should, like, tomorrow, I'm telling you, by Monday or whatever, he needs to really be out somewhere saying, saying, we're going to be at this place. If anybody wants to come, I'm going to be here. You can talk to me over here. I'm going to give that to y'all for free. Dan Cox Camp. I'm going to give that to you for free. That's what I think you should do. What y'all think? I heard something.
Well, I can tell you this. It didn't sound to me like I heard enough substance from Mr. Moore to be able to say he's got it on lock. I didn't hear enough of that.
But I heard that he got it on lock. That's what I heard.
I've heard that too, but I didn't hear enough quality, substantive words coming out of his face to tell me.
Sue anymore.
I'm just saying. I didn't hear.
Look good, smell good, know how to talk, know how to work that camera, and you in.
Well, and we'll all pay for it for 4 to 8 years.
Yeah.
That's how that goes.
And then people be sitting at home, oh, he not doing this and he not doing. Well, you voted for him. Just sit back and be quiet and enjoy the ride. Just sit back.
Exactly. Because you got that ride for another couple of years, so strap up what you don't want broke up.
Mm-hmm. That's how I feel anyway.
No, I agree with you, actually. But, this is an important election. And right now, there's no municipality, no jurisdiction that can afford to just take a cavalier approach to an election right now. COVID has put everybody on their ears. And in order to come back from that correctly and withstand and survive any future variants and have a plan together that makes sense, folk need to pray and then vote. And that's the best way I can say it. Pray and then vote.
Mm-hmm. Better talk to Jesus.
I'm like so serious about that. Because you need to ask for that spirit of discernment to come on in and tell you what to push. And for those people that think I'm being funny about that, I'm really not. Because if you take it back to the Bible, the book of Exodus, the first conversation laying out the first structure of our judicial system and legislative system, well, more so specifically the judicial system, was folk of faith. And if you read the book of Exodus, you find that for yourself. And I'm trying to tell you, those that have faith better call on that power of discernment and figure out who they need to vote for. Not because somebody else told them to do it, but because it's a candidate that actually believes in the things they believe in, will stand for the things that they stand for, or at the very least, they've been given the feeling through the discernment, through praying on it, that they are the least damaging of the two.
Well, I hope they have somebody in their group that prays. I really do. I really do. Joy said that she thinks, she said, I think West will win because of Cox's association with Trump. Very interesting. Very interesting. Because a lot of black people don't like Donald Trump. And so, just mentioning his name could cause you to lose some points.
It could.
It can cause you to lose some points. James, what you say? That window reminds me of the movie People Under the Stairs.
Wow.
I'm gonna get James. I'm gonna get him. Oh my goodness. Robert said maybe an open forum. Yeah, I think we do, Robert. We need an open forum. We do need an open forum.
I don't want to hear nothing from any of the people under the steps, though. I can tell you that.
Listen, listen, James, ain't no people under them stairs right there. Okay, it's not. He said he's mad at people under the stairs. But yeah, so y'all look, I'm about to go because Tonight I've wasted 1 hour of my life that I'm never going to get back. Actually, it was an hour and 5 minutes because I turned the TV on at 6:55. So I wasted an hour and 5 minutes of life, breath, my mind,
All of it that you will never get
my
back.
serenity,
It's gone.
my $20. I ain't gonna
Your
never get.
$20 was well spent, doggone it. You could talk about that pizza for the last 2 hours. I don't want to hear nothing else about that $20 for that pizza.
But shout out to Papa John's because that pizza was on point. That pizza was good. That pizza was good. And
Well, the knocking that you hear at our door just now was the delivery of our dinner. I am happy.
wow, this is
We were,
what 2 hours after the debate, your food
yes,
comes.
yes. Well, the first order got canceled, and they didn't have the consideration to let us know until well after the fact. But anyway.
Listen, where I live at, you got to order at a certain time because they don't deliver after a certain time over here. Where's Andre James at? They
Not
don't
in
deliver
Baltimore.
over here. The cabs don't come. Nothing comes after a certain time. So you got to. That's why I ordered my pizza at 6:00 because I knew around this time you can look for them if you want to, but they ain't. They not coming. They're not coming. Well, they have a cutoff. They say, "Well, what's your at? Which first they ask you what's your zip code? You tell them your zip code. What's your address? Oh no, we don't go over there. Okay.
Be like, you're gonna be hungry tonight. We're not coming.
God bless you. We don't come over there at this time of night. I said, okay, all right. So you learn over here, Andre James. You got to order early, and then when you go down to the porch to get your food, well, I'm not gonna tell you, but I take down on the porch when I go get my food because you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared. The one, so I had ordered a Uber ride to go to my parents' house. It was like 9:00 at night, and it's a house down the street. Every weekend they have a party, a house party, take up the whole street, everything. I'm waiting for the Uber driver to come, and you know how on Uber it tells you you can see where the driver is driving. You can see his location. Why did my Uber driver go over where the party was at, parked his car, and that was it? That was all I saw. He went to the party. I'm standing outside waiting for him to come.
Oh, wow.
That's the neighborhood I live in. That's the way I live at.
Wow.
So anyway.
I'm sorry.
Ubaldo Gonzalez. Hi, I hope I said your name right. But anyway, listen, it's been real, okay? Make sure you get out there. Make sure you do your due diligence and really looking at these candidates, what they are saying they're going to do, yada yada yada, whatever whatever they say they're going to work on for us. I really what do I want? What I have to leave on a positive note. So let me just say this: the pizza was good. The pizza was really good. It was delicious. I like the fact that the debate was only an hour because I think if it had gone any longer, I would have been passed out on this bed. Okay, if it had gone any longer. All right, and well, that's about it. That's about it. I'm glad you all came in and joined. You know, we all that left me knowing is that when I open the door, I gotta continue to run out to the car and run back up to the car. I still can't walk down to the store safely. Still can't walk down there safely. Still can't be out late at night. It just left me feeling the same way I felt before the debate started. That if you live in Baltimore City and you live to see another day, you better say, thank you, Lord. And if I don't have to go out, I stay in because I'm trying to live. So that's all it left me with tonight. And I pray that they walk away. And like I said, Dan is willing to do another debate. I hope Westmore walks away understanding that it would be nice to just do one more debate. And I know some of y'all on here support Westmore. So can y'all just try to ask him if he could just do one more debate? Just one more. No,
If he
and
feels like he got it on lock like that, it shouldn't be no thing. So just do one more debate.
yeah, if you already winning, like, come on out. Come on out. I even sent his camp. Oh shoot, I can't read it because I don't have my tablet near me. But basically, um, I sent his guy who communicates with me back and forth an email because he was saying that he really. I'm not going to say that Westmore said it because I don't even know if Westmore read the emails, but his campaign manager or whatever, whoever he is, that sent me the email, he was saying that West will not do a debate in the room with Dan Cox because of Dan's stance on abortion, what happened on January 6th, and it was something else. So I sent them an email and I said, okay, well, let's do this. Um, how about we do something where it's just Westmore in the room? I'll make sure security is there. I will make sure that there's no confusion because I don't do stuff like that anyway. But I just put it,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that there's no confusion, but allow the people to come out. We can meet at the Downtown Cultural Arts Center, which is Black owned. Let's go meet there. Let's have this forum where you can sit down, and Dan Cox will be nowhere in the room since you don't want to be around him, and it'll just be you talking to the people.
And he
Did you,
said,
did you get a response from them yet? Did they respond to you?
"Mm,
Oh,
come on
okay.
now."
Okay. I haven't heard back. And I went through every list of their demands in their email of why they would not meet with Dan in a room with Dan Cox to do a debate. So I said I will provide everything that you're saying, the reasons why you don't want to be in the room with him. I'll do it in a way where you don't. We're not even going to look at Dan Cox.
Mm-hmm. It still wasn't good enough.
Well, that was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I ain't heard nothing back.
Oh.
Oh, James. James said, why didn't Westmore pay his $21,000 water bill?
Oh. On that note,
I don't know, James. Maybe he didn't know it was due. That's all I can say. Maybe he didn't know the bill was due.
that's a good, great, dang on question, though. Why didn't he pay the
But I
$21,000?
thought they were going to ask him that in the debate.
I mean, they could have asked him about the water bill. They could have asked him about who he actually is and where he's actually from. They could ask him a couple of
They
questions.
did. Dan did go there asking him, where do you live? Because you don't live in Baltimore City. You didn't grow up in Baltimore. And
Well,
he went around the question.
yes, but see, that would have been my point. Somebody should have been watching and listening to call it back and say, because I've been in debates where they've said, appreciate the answer that you gave. However, the question was,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll repeat the question and ask you again for the answer to the question they asked, not what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
nobody was doing that tonight.
Right. And Joyce said, what about the book he wrote? Nobody asked the question about the book. I mean,
Yeah,
these are things that you debate about. You know, you take a few minutes, you talk about it because you know that that's the question that people are going to ask.
but
So,
you don't know what they negotiated was not going to be asked.
and see, this is why I can't be a part of it. I can't. Because if you got
Hmm.
to negotiate questions and okay, well, I'm gonna say this and you say that, I'm not gonna be a part of it. I'm not. I'm not. I'm just not. Listen, the world can't get no better than no worse than what. Well, it can get worse than what it
It
is.
can. It can.
And
Don't
it's
say
not going to
that.
get any better. I'll say this: it's not going to get any better. So I'm just going to take my chances with God because it ain't going to get no better. But when you're asking to be in the highest, sit in the highest seat for the state of Maryland, and you got to have some, it has to be scripted. Mm-mm. Nope. I'm gonna sit this one out. I'm gonna lay this one out. I'm gonna relax. Um, and I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and want to vote. And we're gonna go through these next 4 years complaining like we have been doing. Even though I don't know how you feel about this, but Larry Hogan, he did some good and bad. You know, he was okay. Um, but you know, we going to just be complaining like we've been doing. You know, that's all. I'm gonna tell y'all something, and I keep telling you over and over again. If you don't know who Maya Angelou is, y'all should know it by now as much as I talk about her. She said, when people show you who they are, believe
Believe
them.
them. Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to keep seeing somebody over and over again to see and feel who they are. And see, I'm the kind of person I don't like people laughing and grinning a whole lot with me. I don't like that. I don't like that. Maybe that's just something with me. But James said, how did he get a water bill that high? Was he swimming 5 times a day?
Mayhaps.
James, I don't know, but Dan Cox said he lives in like a, what did he say, a $3 million
$3
house?
million house.
I don't know. I do not know. He living in a $3 million house, and he had scripted questions. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't have enough energy to even put into it. The race is going to happen. According to everybody that I've talked to, Westmore is going to win. So to me, it's over. It's over. That's what I heard. So, hey, what's I can't, Tanika. That's what I heard. So, if Westmore is going to win, you know, we thank Dan Cox for everything that he's done. Um, and wish Westmore well. And I'm gonna come in here like I normally do and just pray and ask God for His protection, because that's all I can do. Because
That's all any of us can do.
I don't know. Hopefully, you know, since everything had to be scripted, hopefully Hogan will leave some notes in office for whoever goes in there. Maybe he'll leave some notes, some sticky notes around, so they can see what they're supposed to do, and you know, continue on. Because I
Yeah.
don't understand. Um, I don't understand, but it is what it is. But anyway, what time is it?
It
Cause
is
I'm
time to be out.
9:37. Yeah, I didn't talk long enough about Westmore and Dan Cox, and
Yes,
both
ma'am.
of them are probably with their families right now. And
Yes,
I'm gonna
ma'am.
lay down and watch a movie.
Well,
Where's
I'm gonna go chill with my family at the moment.
I got? Oh, before I forget, everybody, it's a Oh yeah, Joyce said all the polls indicate that Westmore is going to win. You know, I'm gonna talk about that one day. How stuff has already been planned and put in place. So even if
Mm-hmm.
you thought you were going to win, you weren't going to win anyway. So he more than likely will win, because sometimes, you know, they say how many people run the world? 5 people.
Something like that.
It's only 5 people that run the world, okay, and make decisions for the entire world. So, mhm, depending on who you know, like I said, if I was connected in a certain way, I could probably win for governor too. It's things will happen because they are supposed to happen, because
This is true.
it was designed that way.
You are correct.
Okay, so y'all read all in between the lines, backwards, forwards. Some things are designed that way. Okay, and so that's why I say all we can do is trust God,
Amen. And
because
on
you
that
might.
note,
Uh, yeah, because you might think that things are supposed. We all think that things are supposed to go a certain way, but remember what I said: 5 people, and all of them 5 people are connected to a whole bunch of other people. All right, so y'all have a good night. I'm about to go because I didn't say it enough, and I'm done. What she
good
say?
night, all.
We need to link up soon. How can I? How can I wish him well when I still didn't? When I still don't know who Westmore is? That's true.
Got a good point there. I don't know.
But maybe y'all can write in somewhere. I don't know. Maybe you can go on his website and maybe you can put in, write a letter and request for more that you'd like to see him more as far as having a forum, and a discussion with him. Maybe that might work. I don't know. It ain't worked for me. So, and I can't even take it personal because he turned down a lot of people. He just didn't feel like that's what he needed to do. So, what
It
can I
is what it
say?
is.
Know who you are, Tanika. I already know. I said hi, Tanika. I know it. All right, tell your hubby I said hi.
Yes, ma'am. We
And
are we are going to enjoy the rest of our evening. I do hope you do the same.
oh yeah, most definitely. I enjoyed
And
the evening by myself.
the debate was interesting. I'm glad we did this. I'm sorry the way it came out. I don't feel like enough questions were answered, but there is still a couple of weeks left till the election, and who knows? We'll see what happens. And
I'm
on
gonna
that note,
I'm gonna
I'm
remain
out.
silent. All right, see you.